perspective, actually. Yeah.
Oh, you think it'd be a good idea?
I know it'd be a good idea.
Tell me more.
That would be cool.
Tell me more.
Tell you more.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
seriously.
teach you.
No,
Promise
but
you.
like, so like I don't know how much Amani's told you.
She's
But,
told me nothing at all.
all right, so I'm a clinical. So my expertise is around trauma and PTSD generally, but from community violence, so what people call gang violence, serious youth violence, blah blah blah. So I envisage kind of having a podcast where I'm inviting people who've experienced community violence, whether that's perpetration of violence, witnessed it, been a victim of it, as well as people who are the systems that surround young people. So parents, teachers, police officers, just loads of different professions that are encompassed within the different microsystems, and we just have a chat. And I'm coming from a psychological perspective where I know that trauma doesn't judge, it doesn't discriminate. So I'll have anybody in the room talk about their experiences.
Come on.
Save that for your introduction.
What introduction? You really started.
I was about to say.
Are we on?
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just put the camera up. Did you catch the stream this morning?
Yeah.
I was talking about Islam and stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Do you hear some of the wild comments from your
I
people?
don't debate religion.
Why are they his people?
Fellow
Which
Muslim
community?
brothers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't debate religion.
Is there a charger?
People go how they go.
Is it iPhone?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Where's your accent from?
Jamaica.
Oh, right, okay. Is it not?
No, Small Island. It's from a small island.
I was going to say Bayesian.
He's
Is it
from
not?
an island. Listen.
Is that a new iPhone? Is it a white?
No.
That's a new iPhone. Alright, cool. That's not gonna work. Oh, it's an old iPhone.
No, it's not.
It's an old iPhone.
He's Nicki Minaj's cousin. As in Brent.
No? Trini.
But more close to the brothers.
Mad.
Wait, are you still saying you don't know what? You never heard of Trinidad?
No, mad. All right.
Strike one.
He's going to hold it against me, yeah?
All right. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. And who have we got in the chat already? I know we have Queen of BOE in the Discord, and we have Rob in the Discord. Thank you very much. I need you all in top form. It's going to be a fantastic conversation today. I hope everybody has finished watching Adolescence. If you haven't, oh well, there are spoilers abound. Let me just do a roll call. Let's see who's here. Mirad Semra. You need to be in the Discord, young man. Threatening to come through to the studio all this while. Jump in the Discord. Jackie is here. Thanks, Jackie. Who else we got? Energy, Davina, Adele. Adele, you need to find your way in the Discord. Thank you very much. Who else have we got? Amy Snow Globe, Mark E, Reese Roberts, Bex, Sarah, Izzy Bambino, Chijoke, Abimi, Star Crow, Blacks in Venture. I like that name. The Man from Uncle, Crucial J, Maron Royalty. Oh, you had two places at once. Look at that. Kofi Boama. I don't know if you normally have your name.
Yeah, my
like
Ghanaian brother.
You're from Ghana, young man?
I am.
All right. Born and raised?
No, born here, but the heritage is strong from Ghana.
Love it. Who else we got? Where's Emmanuel? Why isn't he here?
Hi, Emmanuel.
What's the max number of people able to be on the Discord at once? Plenty.
We ain't reached it yet. Don't worry about it.
Plenty.
Let's get to it and then we'll know. We'll tell you in real time.
Ghana greatness. All right. Hello, everybody.
I love that.
We are going to begin. I'm just going to do a whip round. I don't know what's happening. I really don't know what's happening. Look at these people. Look at them. They're in their own world. Look.
I thought you just ordered.
Like we're not broadcasting live. Look.
I don't know how I feel about this snack.
You all finished?
No, I don't like it.
Sorry, wait a
You
minute.
look cute, by the way.
Wait a minute.
Not the
complaints about the snacks, the free snacks?
So this is my first time having these.
Yeah, sesame snaps.
Yeah.
Ever?
I've always
Never
been,
in my life.
I've always been
That's
curious.
crazy,
Yeah.
And it tastes like
Crazy work.
popcorn that's not quite done yet.
The hard kind, like when you.
Yes, and I just
pre-popped.
don't. Yeah, and then it has like a. I don't know how
That's
to
a
feel
good
about it.
description. Yeah.
Tastes meaty.
Yeah. I've not had it for years.
I've never had it. It's my first introduction to it.
Well,
So
and,
thank
and
you,
last
Brent.
time, yeah,
Sorry?
you'll never have it again.
First and last.
I don't think so. But then I'm one of those people where if I try something I don't like it, like I
again.
randomly just crave things. Like 5 years down the line now, I would just randomly start craving this and then have it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So what were we saying? Snack check ratings. What were you saying?
I think it came through.
Yeah.
We've got Oreos here.
Come on.
Got juice.
We've got Jammy Dodgers. Is it
Yes.
Dodgers?
Yeah. We got cookies there
We've got
too.
cookies as well. You got juices. You got water. You got grapes.
Mm-hmm.
You got sweets. Halal sweets.
It's perfect for me.
Not
'cause
just
I
any
don't eat,
sweets.
'cause I'm
Got
vegan.
Haribos.
I have beef.
I think you passed the vibe check.
Thank you.
Did you break it fast?
Yeah. About 20,
Good.
45 minutes ago.
Is that vegan friendly? What are you eating? Is it vegan friendly?
Yeah, it's just sesame seeds.
Sesame
isn't
seeds.
All right, cool. All right, lovely. I thought it was like pig fat in it, like in between the glue.
it? No, it doesn't.
I hope not.
Too late.
Guess I'm going hell.
Never mind. All right, I'm gonna do a little whip around to see who's in the studio. I don't think everybody knows everybody in here. So we start with the lovely lady in green.
Hi, it's me
Who are you?
from TDA, as always, my royalty.
Let me zoom in.
Thanks for having me
I
here.
don't know when this guy is coming, so let me just give you. A
Who?
bit of
Oh
focus.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that angle about of me. You know,
Yeah, I know it's not.
I'm like a thief. People could see that I had 2 Oreos and whatnot. It's crazy. But yeah.
That, you don't like that. And then we
people.
have
You're.
your.
What's going on? This is brother Ramzi, the rotation host.
Come on.
What else?
Diversity higher.
Nah.
No, drop that.
Yeah. Pro-Palestine activist.
Come on.
Yeah. That's it.
Amen. And we have
Gigi, what's going on? Journeys with Grace
Come
podcast,
on.
immersive podcast. Check it out if you haven't checked it out already.
Check it out.
And I'm here now.
lovely. Nice to see you again.
Again, yes.
And we have to her left.
All right.
To her left.
Dr. Ron.
The doctor.
Come on.
Yeah, come on.
Doctor in the building. We've got 2 doctors in the building.
Yes,
So
I'm
privileged.
I'm a
Love to see
clinical
it.
and community psychologist.
Amazing.
I work with young people and the systems around them affected by community violence.
Wonderful.
Can you just expound on the clinical community psychologist, please?
Expanding it, all right. So, I guess, yeah, me and Amani are both doctors in clinical psychology. We've
Amani?
trained Dr. Amani.
Excuse me.
Okay,
This
cool.
is
We
the...
don't call her Amani in these.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Everyone calls
Amani?
me- It took me a while to adopt Dr. Amani. I was saying Amani for time, and then Brent was like, Dr. Amani.
It's not because we
Right?
actually met you as Amani and we're like, sorry, that's not her name.
Yeah.
Dr. Amani.
We just call it
To be
each other's
fair,
names.
though, I think that deserves a podcast in itself because a lot of psychologists, and I don't know if it's a black thing, but I've struggled to call myself Dr. Ron.
Oh, we're
And
calling you Dr. Ron. We
I
respect.
it was only until like I don't know, like some older woman was basically like, you worked hard for this, and like we paved the way for this to even be possible for you. And I was
Yeah,
like,
you
you
go.
know what? I have to own it now.
Own it.
Facts.
Absolutely.
So yeah, no,
We-
Dr.
we-
Ron, I hear it.
We applied together.
Yeah.
We worked together. Yeah, we got on at the same time.
We've known the struggle to get on this
That's
course.
amazing.
Yeah.
In the trenches together.
Yeah,
So
facts.
let's
You guys need to
Yeah,
sit
facts.
in that doctor. Love that, man.
Facts, yeah.
Big up both of you. That's amazing things.
Amazing.
But we cut you, so you were
I
saying
know,
about your
but
thing.
I don't know what more to say to the clinical. Like,
Explain about the community bit though, and like.
oh, right,
you know,
yeah. So fair. So me and Dr. Amani trained as clinical psychologists, but I identify as a clinical and community psychologist because my work doesn't occur in clinics anymore. So I left the NHS. I predominantly do all my work with charities and with community organisations because I know that the young people that I want to see and need to see aren't accessing NHS services. They're accessing youth clubs. They're accessing community organisations. So I go into their spaces
Nice.
and do the work.
That's amazing.
I love that. One story that you tell around the dinner table, like a party. trick of yours.
The party trick.
Have you been stabbed whilst doing community service?
Ah, that is this what we're
You
doing?
think that's a party trick?
No, but I'm sure you've got wild stories because I've been.
Oh, no,
I've had
no,
like
no.
a table thrown at me.
Sorry?
At work?
Yeah.
No, see? Come on, man. No, it's not. I mean, the maddest stories, and I won't go into it too much, is I guess in this lifestyle, you know that at young ages, people get killed. And I've worked with somebody that got killed and then worked with the person that killed them. So, like, it gets like that. You're in certain
Isn't that conflict of interest?
environments.
Was the person
No.
you're
So
planning?
I didn't know at the time. Yeah. So it was it could have been conflict of interest because I had stopped working with both of them, and I then found out relatively recently about what happened. It was quite heavy on the soul. But it just speaks to the fact that in these situations you can be working with anybody and everybody, and it gets like that when it comes to conflict. Yeah.
Working with ops, that's crazy. Is that party trick, Brent?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not really a party trick, but I know how to juggle.
And finally,
Oh, is it on me? Sorry.
Yes,
Hi,
yes.
Dr. Amani. You guys know who I am.
there's some new people
Our
over
top
here.
babe.
There's some new people over here, please.
Okay, sorry for the new people. Hi, my name's Dr. Amani. I'm a clinical psychologist, currently working with children who've experienced trauma, but then also those with kind of more broader neurodevelopmental difficulties, mental health difficulties, that kind of thing.
You were on radio the other day.
I was on radio the other day. I was on BBC Radio.
Amazing. How was that?
Yeah. You know what? Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I guess in the room, you've got the producers in the background, you've got the women trying to like read a script but also talk to you. So that was odd. And then obviously they've got a time slot. I want to get in as much information as possible.
Yeah.
But then you can see her being like,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think it went well. I think it went well.
Nice.
They wanted to take my details to do like further things. So
Love that. Love that. What's that, girl?
thank you.
All right. Who have we got in the Discord? Roll call, please. Black Rob?
Yes.
Wait. Did you just say yes?
You
did.
Are you looking forward to his commentary?
Missed him.
What is that?
Don't know. It was Arabic.
I just said yes, sir.
Come on.
You say you thought it was Arabic?
Next is Christy.
Yoey.
Oh, you have to take.
Hello,
Yeah. How are you?
Take it off mute.
How are you?
I'm good.
I miss you in the
You're
studio.
lucky I'm actually on the Discord.
I miss you in the
please,
studio.
Brent,
All
please.
right, little bit.
You're even lucky I'm on Discord.
Yes, baby steps.
Are you guys fight again?
Baby steps. Yeah.
Ah,
Baby
fair.
steps.
It's like that.
Jackie.
Hi everyone. I'm going to do a cheeky plug. I've got a podcast called Before You Leave. You can follow it on TikTok, Instagram, and on Spotify.
What's the call again?
Before You Leave. So
what's it about?
conversations worth having before you leave,
Oh,
particularly with our
Okay.
parents, trauma related to our parents, and how we can learn from it before they leave. So we're not at the funeral for additional reasons. Let them die empty.
I like that concept.
Jackie, you could
I've
have
actually heard-
shouted that out from in the room, you know. Not fair.
Yeah. Tell her
Fair.
again.
Love you,
Tell her
Jackie,
again.
but
She's
fair.
supposed to be here.
Yes, that's why I'm plugging. Everyone on Discord is just saying hi. I want to do more.
Thank you very much. Chat with Nat.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to the discussion.
Have you watched the series?
Yes, I have.
Have you got a lot of takeaways?
Yeah, and I still keep thinking of more things
They keep coming.
occur to me, and it's interesting hearing. It will be interesting to hear what other people think and what their takeaways are.
All right, cool. And Badu?
Yeah, hello. I just wanted to sit and listen, but I was invited to speak, so.
Well, are you the handsome 20-year-old that's calling this morning?
I don't know about handsome yet, but I'm 20 yet.
Right. Welcome. Have you seen the series?
Well, what series are we talking about?
Adolescence.
Not yet.
Oh, well.
But this will make you want to watch it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Could be hella spoilers.
It's not
Yeah, I don't
spoiler.
mind. I'm not gonna watch it.
All right.
The kid is a killer. There's not really much to spoiler. They show it in the trailer. You know, they kind of told us in the trailer. You know how trailers, when trailers tell you the whole thing. Thank you very much.
It's true.
But yeah.
Chris Ogun, yes, this live will be available after, as per usual. This is the community service series where the community get to come through and pitch in, because everybody has to basically serve while they're in the TDA community. All right, Esther. Now, I think you had a hot take yesterday, or was it the day before, when I was like, I've seen the first episode, and I'm like, were you about to say you didn't enjoy it?
You know I forget things.
Was it?
What did you say just before I said that?
I said, I've started watching it, and he's already, it's already shown that he's killed the girl, right? So
Yeah.
what else are they going to show me? I think that's what I said.
I can't remember. Bro.
All right, that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah.
How much do you rate the series out of 10?
I'll be honest, you know, it's a strong... Is it based on acting or storyline or everything?
Let's say storyline.
I think storyline is a strong 9 out of 10, you know? Because I think from the trailer, I knew what it was going to be about. But then, for some reason, I didn't think he did it. Like, he convinced me, because he was so adamant that he didn't do it, he convinced me that, I thought, okay, he didn't do it, and I thought there's going to be a plot twist. I thought it was his two little friends, and he basically was the one who, like, took the rap for it or something. So when they showed the video footage of him, I said, oh, you little liar. So I think storyline is a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
But I think also one of the things I like about it is the subtleties. I remember you said you were going to watch it fast.
Yeah.
And I said, there's just certain things that you there's a reason why you can't watch it fast, because you need to read, like even in the silence, that silence is loud. It's a strong 9 out of 10 for me. Strong 9 out of 10. Really good.
That's your quick summary. Ramzi,
Yes.
what are we saying? Out of 10.
I think I agree with Esther. The way the cinematography, the pacing, the way it was all a single shot, the acting. Apart, I might have my friend shouted at me the other day. I don't think the little boy is that great of an actor.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't think he was that
swear.
great. I didn't think he
Swear
was
to
that
God.
great.
To me, I didn't think he was that great.
Why do you think he's not great though?
Wow.
I didn't believe him. I didn't believe it.
Oh, really?
At all. I didn't believe him. It wasn't.
Really?
I understood the narrative, like you said. The first episode was supposed to tug at you and say, "Oh,
He's just a little boy, yeah.
Yeah, as with other narratives, especially when he pissed himself, he was saying, "I didn't do it." The way it was filmed from the family's narrative led us to believe that he didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then when it came and it happened, he did do it. I think they done that on purpose. But yeah, no, as I was saying, I didn't think he was a good actor. The main.
I want him to have the world, you know.
I want him to.
Me too. No, me too.
Especially because he's not
I'm not saying he's shit. I just don't think
No,
he was that
I
good.
know. But I feel like, especially because he's not like he hasn't been in drama school all his life. He hasn't been raised to go down the acting route. He was just.
Yes,
Yes, it's first, and they intentionally picked him because they wanted it to be as realistic. And I'm just so like I'm looking forward to what his career is going to be.
I didn't feel like it was realistic at all.
Really?
Because he was handsome. The whole point of the show.
It was a cute little boy though. That's
No, I
what
get
they
that, but
wanted.
that's not what was depicted.
killers
The
are ugly.
narrative. No, but he's supposed to fit the incel trait, right? They're all supposed to be
but they're good
outcast.
looking.
Oh my God.
Necessarily.
Yeah,
though.
not necessarily.
It's
Though.
about what you think of yourself.
100%.
Ugly,
Ramzi.
and you don't
Alright.
see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For me, he was too handsome.
He was too handsome. Can't be a killer.
But in regards to the show, it was filmed amazingly. The story was really good. I definitely agree with Esther's 9 out of 10.
All right. Thank you for your quick summary.
Yeah.
Gigi.
Same question?
Yes, please.
I wouldn't do storyline alone, but everything from the casting to the storyline to the way it was filmed, the fact that they'd done it, they didn't improvise. Well, they kind of improvised, they said. I would give it an 8. It's good, but I didn't enjoy it in the beginning, to be honest with you. And the thing is, normally I wait for people to finish with the hype and then I watch something.
Okay.
I knew I was coming here, so I had to go and watch it.
There we go.
I had to watch it quick.
But do you feel like it lived to the hype,
That's.
or was it over a bit too much?
If not,
I
why?
think it was too. I think it was too much, but only because you know what people are like. People go,
You do too much.
they just everywhere. He was everywhere. Everywhere I looked, I'm like, there. So it was that was too much. But I did think it was good, and I think the way they had him, you know, you're so saying that he was handsome. I think it's the fact that he looked almost too handsome, too cute, so you're not thinking it's him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're thinking he's innocent. And I thought that was good. I thought the casting was good.
Wasn't the narrative in the show that he was ugly? That the girl said he was ugly? That
Yeah,
her
but then-
friends were saying he
but-
was ugly?
Yeah, but that's not the reality, though. That's
Because
the
the girl,
perception.
yeah,
Everything's
he's
perception,
assuming the
bro.
girl he's ugly because the girl doesn't like him though.
Yeah.
It's not because he's been told.
No, but I thought he was told.
Yeah, but by the girl that didn't like him though.
Because his
It's not a
friends,
general thing.
one of his friends was poor, and another one of his friends were another form of outcast, which is why they were susceptible to
Yeah.
the manosphere thing, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
yeah.
blah. He was supposed to be the ugly one. Or that's
No. Or that middle friend, the one that actually was chasing.
Oh my
I'm not calling
day.
anyone's kid ugly.
I thought he himself.
I would have
he was
thought maybe,
ugly.
yeah. I think he himself
But
felt
that's obviously
ugly
come from
because,
somewhere, though.
yeah, he
Some of
himself
them
felt ugly
misunderstood
because
it.
the girl didn't like him. And I think she did say that he wasn't good looking or whatever. He basically felt rejected and he equated that to him being ugly. But
Okay.
the wider world don't think he's ugly.
Yeah, objectively, I think we can agree that he was a cute kid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
If they got someone that
Yeah.
wasn't so
Yeah.
cute, I feel like it would have been.
Wait a minute.
Oh.
You don't think incels, all of them, are supposed to be ugly?
No, I'm saying that narrative.
no.
When we talk
You
about
just didn't believe him because he was too cute.
when we talk about the first guy, the main guy who started doing shooting sprees, the incel, first incel, he wasn't ugly. He was objectively somewhat handsome. So no, that wasn't it. I'm saying from the narrative that I got from the story, I thought he was supposed to be ugly and it just didn't fit. That's my point.
From the top.
What?
Who keeps saying that? Is it
Say
that?
what?
Me,
shocked for a while.
I'm honestly like so shocked.
Chime in. Let's say.
Who's
Go on.
this?
This is Nat.
No, can we like set the scene and like do it properly
Whoa.
if we're talking about the show?
Whoa. Take
Okay,
over.
do you know what? Yeah.
Take over.
Moderation. She's talking
Take
about moderation.
over.
No, because people
Yeah,
are
that
just
was
like,
actually shy. You.
Whoa.
yeah,
She
they
said, I'll
just
do your
go
job
left.
since you're not doing it.
Whoa. To be honest, honestly, I didn't even
I
want to
don't
be
know
here
if you
today.
Watch this.
I was forced to do this by Dr. Amani.
Your show.
You like to lie on my name?
Talk
See
to
what
us.
you
You
need a therapy
take
session.
over a chat with Nat. Let us know how to run this. I'm
No,
open.
I'm saying set the scene. Set the scene about the show, and then we talk about the themes, and then we start chiming in.
Please,
Because this-
go. Lead it.
Who's moderating this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing that.
To be
We
fair,
got
yeah.
sidetracked.
To be fair, Nat,
Sidetracked.
sorry, we got stuck on the ugly, handsome kid. Let Dr. Ron.
Yeah, because
She's got the
that's
stage.
throwing me off. To be honest, like that's
Okay, let's
the
get
thing.
you back in the
Okay,
car
well,
then.
yeah,
Let's get you
yeah,
back.
yeah.
So Dr. Ron and Dr. Amani will let us know. I love calling
What
them.
ratings, yeah?
We'll let us, we'll let them know their
Alright.
ratings, and then we'll get you guys'
come back,
ratings
innit?
as well.
Nah, you're not too
Sorry,
nice.
Nat.
You're
All
not too
right,
nice.
I rated it a 9 out of 10 as well. I 100% want to applaud the cast, the storytelling. And it's interesting that you've mentioned the little boy because I don't think he was the worst actor on the show.
Who's the worst actor?
Oh no, I know who the worst
I
one
didn't
is.
rate Ashley Waters, if I'm honest. I didn't rate his
Really?
acting on it, but I don't want to delve into it, but so it's interesting that you said that.
I didn't say
What
the worst.
scene got you, Dr. Ron?
Huh?
What scene was like, nah, sir, you're not doing
No.
this.
I think from the beginning, man, fighting in
Really?
the car and like, I was just like, what's going on here? Oh no, not fight or burping, but like, I don't think he's got
Farting in the
range the
car.
way that other actors in the show had a spectrum of emotion and range, and that's why I was like,
Do you
I'm
think
not-
so?
Yeah,
Kate's
like,
friend
it
But I was
could
gonna
have
say,
been, but
do
I
you think
wasn't
it's
feeling it,
intentional?
I'm not
Because
gonna
with
lie.
police officers, they have a case, they deal with that case, they move on to the next thing. Do you get me? Like,
Let 'em know.
Like with the family, they're stuck with that reality that your child is in jail. That's your everyday reality. But with a police officer, we arrest you, we do what we need to do, on to the next one, on to the next one. So it's like he's not going to have as much emotional investment in that as anybody else who was that guy's family or friend.
No, but I'm not even
Do you know
thinking
what
about
I
the
mean?
story. Even with his own son, I wasn't seeing range.
But you're
like-
right. You're right. But
gonna be
Ashley
real with you.
Ashley can't act.
He can't act.
He's the worst. He was the worst.
But that's why I don't want to delve into it because it's not about him.
No, it is.
But anyway, as I said,
Yeah,
9 out
let's-
of 9 out of
He
10.
can't.
I think
It was one dimensional. But because I
But
think
he
that's,
did
that
well
was
in the
his,
show.
I think that was his.
no.
He did
When
do
you
better
take on
on
a
the
role, you show range, irrespective of how limiting
Please,
the
he's
role
not been
is.
acting since yesterday.
Yeah, and that's why I appreciate it. That's why I didn't want to say too much.
Do you know what? I didn't want Nat to say that stuff again.
Please,
Fair,
anyway,
fair.
8, 9.
No. Yeah. So 9 out of 10.
It's
No.
fine.
I said 9 out of 10, but simply because the fact that everybody's talking about it. So you get people of different ages, different professions, people in different fields. They all have something to say about this. So I very much appreciate that. People are bringing nuance to the conversation, learning to the conversation, critique to the conversation. So I've got respect for that. Yeah, I've got respect for that.
Yeah. I think that's why I'd give it the same level as well, because I don't think I had the same emotional response to it. I was watching it with my housemate. She's like, what? Huh? The whole time. And I was like, she's like, this is what happens. And I'm like, yeah. Like, so to me, it's maybe I'm emotionally desensitized a bit. I don't know what you think, Mum. I don't think I had the same emotional response, but from like the nuance and the conversation and not like the way that my psychologist brain was going, I was like, yeah, this is good. From like that point of view. And then, like you said, the discussion it's brought, the way it was shot, all of that stuff. The thought behind it as well, because obviously now I'm in the TikTok algorithm of Adolescence. I'm seeing all the interviews as well. You can see the thought that they put behind it. I appreciate that as well. So I'm still giving it a 9. Yeah, 100%.
Brent, what's yours?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll give it an 8.
Okay.
All right, Black Rob.
That keeps throwing me off.
Yo.
Yep. Make it quick, please.
What's your ratings?
I'll give it a 9 all around.
Beautiful. Thank you. Chris, sorry, go on.
And also, when you're talking about the actors that they pick, without going into it, I think there was a reason why they picked Ashley Moore, because he looks like a muscly black man, looked like he was cool. So you couldn't get someone that looked like a Neek playing that role, and the juxtaposition between him and his son with a bang as well.
Oh, yeah.
I think I agree with that.
Rob, is it possible for you to fix your phone?
I changed my headset. Okay.
Do something, yeah. Christy?
I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I think the problem, the same with, is it Gigi?
Yes.
Yeah, the same with, I am like that with shows where when there's too much overhypeness, that doesn't draw me to it. I kind of want to wait also. So I guess when it finished, I was kind of like, is that it? That's what I was kind of left with. So maybe because of how it was overhyped, and it was just thrown in our faces on social media, and I guess because of it was speaking to what's kind of going on currently, I feel like that's more what is driving the discourse than the actual show, if that makes sense. So that's why people are like, oh my God, we love it, because what's going on currently. Not because don't get me wrong, the shot, the one take, all that kind of stuff, I 100% cinematically, it was on point. I give that like a 9, 10 out of 10. But I just think people are overhyping it, but just because of what's currently going on.
Okay. Thank you. Jackie?
I agree. I think I'd give it a 6 out of 10 because we knew he killed, and I think it was the fact that you were told he killed someone, and then in the end he actually did kill. There was no shock. There was nothing exciting there. 12 out of 10 for the casting. Because he's so good looking, you'd assume that he wouldn't be the killer, and I think they've done that on purpose. And all the other I think the other actors, like the teachers, they did excellently well with casting them. But the storyline didn't bang. But in terms of the impact it had, the aftermath, excellent. Whatever marketing they've done has exceeded whatever it's meant to do. But I agree with Chrissy there. It just didn't bang. He killed someone. We knew he killed someone at the beginning. And the whole storyline is who did it, and it was actually him. And we also knew the whole time. It was boring.
Okay.
But it did the job. I like them. I kept watching it to see more. To see more. Like, oh, actually, he actually just did it.
That was intentional, though.
I think they said that they didn't want it to be a who did it. They wanted it to be why did it.
Yeah.
Why,
And again, that's why I understand in terms of entertainment. We like a who did it. Like it's But I'm just saying, like what I've heard is that they didn't want it to be that specifically. But I understand what you're saying and why you gave that.
So they accomplished what it is that they wanted to get, which is the message out. Everyone to start talking about what's going on in school. So I think they exceeded their KPIs and stuff. But it wasn't entertaining.
Yeah, I read that.
Chat with Nat.
Yeah, I give it a 10.
Okay.
So I thought it was raw. I thought it was real. I thought it was gut-wrenchingly beautiful. I put it in the same vein as Baby Reindeer. It was not supposed to be entertainment, right? So it was not supposed to be a whodunit. It's not Line of Duty. So I think they managed to. So I think there's a lot, and hopefully we'll
Should have been in
deep
the
deeper
studio.
and talk about the themes, because I thought it was beautiful. If you think about the focus on fathers and the fact that mothers were minority characters. So even if you look at Jamie's mum, and even if you look at Ashley's character's mum, right? The fact that they were sort of not there. I thought that was interesting. I thought like Liverpool sort of like being a character. So kind of talking about the whole, this is a family that's driving, moved to a different part of the country. You can kind of glean themes that apply to sort of different communities, who these sort of things affect. So I thought they were very intelligent. I like the casting because I think it challenged people's perceptions and it made you think, right? I think like I think this was like beautiful for deep thinkers.
All right. So it goes over the head of everybody else, yeah?
Why do you have to drop it like that?
No.
but you know what,
I'm
you
picking up on
say
all
that
the shade.
though.
I'm picking up on all the shade.
You say that though, but there's white racists who were talking about the kids should have been Muslim or black. So fair.
Joey Barton's
actually.
going crazy still.
Yeah.
Joe Budden.
Barton.
Yeah.
Barton, sorry,
the guy who just got found guilty of
ironically,
abusing
innit?
his wife. Yeah, that guy. But no, like there's been people who were like, oh, if it's meant to show what's going on in society, then how is it a UK or London-based show, whatever the case is, and it's not showing the who they believe are the biggest perpetrators of like knife crime and stuff like that, and gangs and stuff.
Yeah.
So
But it's not a knife
they
crime.
use knife
I
yeah,
think
but
it
you know,
was
but then that's the thing though. So I
purposeful.
get where Nat is coming from. In like, some people have watched what we've watched and they just don't get it. They're just full of criticism of, they've got the wrong, like this is the wrong casting basically.
I think those people are rage baiters, and I think I don't think it's even worth discussing the whole Joey Barton like commentary on it. I think they're just rage baiters trying to get some engagement. So it's a lazy way of interpreting this storyline because it's applicable to any race.
Facts. Yeah.
Nat, are you finished? Okay.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
All right, cool. Badu? Oh, you haven't seen it. Sorry. Don't unmute your mic. Miraculous Miri.
Is that her name?
Good evening.
Yeah.
His name. Lovely name.
It's the name I go by.
I really like that.
Thank you. I like it. It's good. There's not really much to say, but from my line of work, I'm interested to see the impact and the conversations that a wide variety of people are going to have. Obviously, people know what I do.
What do you do? Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to know what you do.
Teach.
Okay.
What year?
Teach. For the purpose of the conversation, I can't disclose.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I work with children, outside of school settings, and some of them are having conversations about this as young as you would be surprised to think. So I'm a bit curious and concerned to see the impact of this story.
What are some of the children saying?
At the moment, it's just a hype. But
Do they relate to any of the characters that were portrayed in the series?
no, not in the slightest. But I think what I am worried about is now that they are exposed to the language and exposed to some of the things that were discussed, they will now start using it on one another.
Interesting. As in they were like,
I
they will maybe
agree.
seek it out. That like now they've heard about it, they'll seek it out and
Yeah,
prior to
they've
this.
heard it. It's for them. It's thrilling. It's exciting. It's all
Okay, I
this
see.
new set of language that I can use to insult one another, and there's pros and cons. It was good for adults to see this, especially parents, especially people that work in schools with kids. I think the fact that I know there are a lot of youth who've watched it, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna have a different impact on society than we initially thought.
As a teacher,
Agreed.
have you seen any of the characters reflected in your classroom?
No,
So
not in
it's
the
all new
slightest.
to you,
No, it's not new to me,
but it's
but
not in your classroom.
not in the schools that I've worked at.
Oh.
This is the themes of what we listen to are more geared towards young adults, or adults, and sometimes.
What do you mean by that?
In terms of the whole this manosphere incel thing, it's generally aimed at late teens, the young adults who are going into adulthood, realizing, their place in quote unquote society. I don't think it was geared towards young
Hey,
children.
people.
Is that?
Hello, Eddie.
So do you want me to continue?
I don't know why he's not responding to me.
Yes, please.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. I think what we watched is more geared towards young adults, those that are stepping into adulthood. I don't think it was ever geared towards children of the age of Jamie. However, the fact that I know there are children who've watched it is now going to open a can of worms.
Dr. Ron, do you agree with this?
I don't know if I agree about the age range thing, personally. Only because I work with people Jamie's age. Like I was in the school yesterday with 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds. So I very much think it is applicable to them. And I've had like youth workers ringing me like, this young person is triggered. Can you speak to them? Because they've watched the show and they're able to relate to aspects within the show, which is why they felt triggered to begin with.
Okay.
But again, it's just my personal experience.
I think as well. I think it's difficult as well because I think we're exposed to quite the extreme, what people would call the extreme of behavior. So maybe it's more prominent in our minds than maybe other people. But that doesn't mean it means they exist. It just means that we see it. We might see, let's say, 30% of the population 90% of the time. Do you know what I mean? So for us, it feels a bit more, but they're still relevant. It's live, but it's still important to talk about because they exist. But I can understand why someone might not encounter those people and then be like, okay, this doesn't make sense because you haven't encountered those people as regularly. So I understand both sides. Yeah.
But that's why I kind of
I think you could.
9 out of 10 because I live it, I feel it.
I think you could gather then which group of children I work with.
I can't. I'll be honest.
Hey,
I don't
Dr.
know.
Armani.
Okay. Well, for context, it's primary.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a bit shocked about that then, that you're saying like from a primary perspective, they've watched it and are talking about it. I'm a bit surprised about that.
That's more
that's
about,
too
for
young.
me, about censoring, like what they're watching at home more
Yeah.
than
Like,
anything.
who are
So
they
I
watching
wouldn't think
that
that would be
with?
age
Like-
appropriate.
That's a bit concerning, yeah.
Yeah, I understand your concern in terms of what they're exposed to because I wouldn't think they should watch it at that age. Yeah.
But obviously, I work with children, outside the school sectors, in church and youth groups. So the fact that I don't think they're watching it with their parents, I know some parents are sitting down with their children watching it, and they're talking about it, which is fine. I don't think the children I'm encountering are doing that.
So you think they're finding other ways to watch things they shouldn't be watching?
No, I think it's just watching on Netflix. I think they have a Netflix account.
Yeah.
I think they're unaided, they're unsupported.
So
I think yeah.
So I guess that would also speak to unsupervised content, wouldn't it?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
All right.
I'd say it's similar to Squid Games where people were watching when they weren't meant to be watching. But then the way Adolescent portrayed it, everybody should watch it. It's good for school. So I get what he's saying it looks as though kids are allowed to watch it. So maybe the question is, it should have been higher rated to eliminate the 12, 10-year-olds that think it's okay for them to watch it because it's 12 rated or something. But I agree with him. When I used to work in schools, and there are some kids that are still innocent. So there's ways in which you have to deliver and spoon feed or trickle feed the information. So was it the right time to introduce a 10-year-old to this? 10-year-olds that aren't naturally introduced, that don't naturally know it. Is this the best time, or is that the best way to say it?
I think it's rated
Squid Game's a perfect
15, isn't it?
example. They weren't meant to watch it and they still watched it. But this one, it looked like as though they're allowed to watch it because parents, it's like as a family movie because everyone should watch it. But really, parents should be the one watching it and not kids. And some kids still haven't been introduced to this yet. They might do, but it's for the parents to kind of sift how much they want to introduce the whole Andrew Tate topic to them. So I fully get his point. Not all kids are like that yet.
All right. Next question. What was the scene for you that evoked the rawest emotion?
Oh, the final scene, man. The very final scene. I think the final scene. I think that was just hard to watch. I mean, I said not just the final. I think just that birthday episode. It was such a roller coaster of emotions. When he told his dad, "Oh yeah, I decided I'm gonna plead guilty," and then I feel like even though the dad had seen the video, knew that he did it or whatever. I don't know what his dad. I don't know what he. It's almost as if like it was a new awareness that your son was really capable of that and actually did that. So I think that as well, and then just trying to be like, okay, well, this is now our life, and how we're gonna move forward. But then just showing that man is a great, like, yeah, that was me. That was mine. But that final scene when he's holding his teddy bear and it just dawns on him that now, like, this is no longer, he's not going to be here for however long. That was very, very heartbreaking.
I think he said sorry. Like, sorry, Jamie.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, he did.
That's deep, man. That's deep.
It was deep. That was very, very deep.
Ramzi?
I don't know what the question was.
Which scene evoked the rawest emotion from you?
Yeah, this is the last scene. Is he kind of personified his child in the teddy bear, and had like basically where the film more or less started and ended was in his room, and him reliving like we just said, him reliving. Even there was like a song in the background that they played. It was apparently it was sung by the actress who played the girl who got killed. And it was supposed to be like a child song, yeah. So it's all the little bits and bobs that just kind of play in the background. Him crying and the visceral emotion,
wailing.
Yeah. I think that him coming to terms with the fact that he failed him in his eyes, and yeah, it was that bit. It was horrible.
Gigi?
I think there was a lot of scenes that touched me, but the one scene in particular was from the final episode, the drive back. That drive, because the fact that he told his dad, he was very upset that his mum and sister were in the car. He didn't ask for them. And it showed me how he felt about, not women, not in a horrible way, but the way he looked at women. He didn't care that they were that. He didn't want to speak to them. He didn't care about, didn't ask for them. So I feel like that scene in particular, and then the dad's avoidance. From the beginning, I always thought there was avoidance from the dad. So in most films, this is why I gave it 8 as well, because I thought that if they went deeper and showed another scene where we got to see all the different things that contributed to how he's thinking, I'd be right, okay, because people need to know that. If you're a parent and you're seeing your kid, you don't know what they're doing. They stay in their room, they're isolated, you don't know, right? So I was thinking that would have been really good. But in that scene there, the avoidance from the dad, the inability for him to even say, okay, Jamie,
that was,
he couldn't
bring,
It was really, really hard for him. So I thought that was really, that was a good scene. That was a big scene. And then just how the mum and the sister felt, just sitting there and just hearing it, and for them it hit them hard because they probably thought he's done it all that time, whereas the dad was still avoiding it and maybe not sure. So yeah, that was a scene for me.
And Sorry.
I will get to you.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
You want to go?
Yeah, just what you said about the him not because I think at the start, yeah, when he asked for his dad to be his guardian and all that stuff, I just thought that's because he's got a really close relationship with his dad. But then that car scene where he doesn't ask about them, and then when he finds out that they're on the phone, he's shocked.
You see, it's deeper than that.
It always reminds me though of when when a man moves a certain way, and people are like, that could be your sister, that could be your mum, blah blah. I've never understood why people say stuff like that because I'm like, that wouldn't make a difference, and I like that because that showed that it doesn't because people almost expect you to, or expect people that think a certain way to kind of put their mum almost like a way of making it human. Do you get what I mean? Trying to make them relate, but if there isn't that respect there and that care, then it's not there. You can't. It doesn't matter who you tell them to imagine, whether it's their daughter. It makes no difference. But yeah, that just reminded me of that.
Yeah. And sorry, the other scene was when, I don't think it's episode 3 when the psychologist is talking to him. But it's the bit where Jamie really, really wants validation. He really wants her to say, do you like me? It's so important for him because in his head, he thinks he's ugly and thinks they don't like him. And that's why I feel like he was kind of running in between being nice and then flipping, but being nice. He wanted her to just like him. And I thought, that's crazy to be that age and you want someone to like you, like people like you.
And you see how he flipped when she said that she's no longer instant switch.
But that's another thing because that reminds me again of that scene with where he didn't care to ask about his mum or his because it's like when he thought she liked him, it was fine to play along. But then the moment where she would do something that upsets him or ask him a question he didn't like, the way he would flip and the way he's scared and he's like, did I just scare you? That all of that stuff was so
Sorry.
No, I was going to say those were the scenes that hit me the most.
Yeah. Really?
Because
I've got very different ones.
Same.
But that's because maybe I was just doing the psychologist thing. But it was his emotional processing. It was seeing how like the deep rooted security and like the dysregulation that was happening, and it was fleeting from shame and guilt. And then you see him like, so then he feels really small. So he tries to get up and bigger. So that's why he's standing over her. So he's trying to get power because he wants to feel something. But then he realizes that's not sustainable. Rages, she still rejects him. Oh my gosh, she still like she left the room and came back, right? And then he settles down again. So you can see his emotional processes, the ups and downs, and why it's so important for them to be able to learn emotional regulation. So that was one of the, I know we've skipped you, sorry, but so that was one thing for me. I agree. I liked that scene as well, or that whole episode. And then actually when the parents were trying to figure out why, but also like
when they're sitting down on the bed,
sitting on the bed, and then also when they were like, are we going to survive this? I was very real. I was like, that's real because this stuff tears people apart.
That's why I'm looking forward to get both of your perspectives because me and my friends had a debate. I'm not going to say where I stand, but I want to know where you stand because all the characters were depicted. So the sister was depicted as regular. The mum and dad were depicted as loving. They have flaws, but at the end of it, they were both very supportive. They both loved him. He took him to the football class. Even though he wasn't good at football, he didn't look at him. He thought he was doing right by him, but in the end, it played a factor. I'm not saying it was the deciding factor, but it played a factor within him. He didn't like the fact that his dad wasn't looking at him, but in his dad's eyes, or from his dad's perspective,
you want to embarrass him.
Yes, he knew that he wasn't good, but he tried to support him. So I say all that to say, I want to know where it went wrong because something went wrong. He was susceptible to the poison, he was indoctrinated, and I feel like the biggest thing from the takeaway from the show is anyone can be indoctrinated, and I just want to know where, from you guys' perspective, how.
Should we hold that?
Before we jump in there, I want to tell my scene because my scene is very different.
Okay, go on.
That's episode 3, like we do that. So like as a psychologist, I was like, I
you better
feel
talk
it,
your doctor shit.
but
Okay. No one in the office.
You know the one scene that, or one of them that really, really hit me? I don't know if it's episode 1, and it might have been because things happen quite quickly. When Jamie's getting strip searched and the dad is just watching. And the camera remains on the dad, and you're like, what must it be like to be in such a helpless, powerless position where you're seeing your son being stripped and then searched? And I was like, that is heavy. I don't even have children and it connected to me. I'm like, wow, that is such a raw scene. That just
Yeah,
the
'cause
emotional
you can
intensity was wild.
His face, you could, and it's funny because we just saw his face.
That's it.
And he was telling you every single thing that he was
Facts.
thinking,
Yeah,
every
fact.
emotion he was
No
feeling.
words needed.
None.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's powerful,
that's a
man.
good scene
Yeah, it's
actually.
powerful.
Ben, what was yours?
That was that one.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt everything that his face suggested. Every single thing. And how you were saying Ashley was rubbish. The contrast.
Y'all
was,
didn't.
Oh, was
Dr. Ron said that. Dr. Ron.
Alright, let's leave it. Let's leave it. Let's
Dr.
swear
Ron
past
said
that.
that.
Swear
Ain't no
past that
y'all
one.
in here.
Problems for you, Dr.
Okay. Okay.
who have we got? We've got Christy. Same question to you.
It was funny enough. I can't like episode 4. As much as it was emotional, that didn't actually. That's not what captured me. It was actually the whole discourse between him and the psychologist. And Mark. Thank you, Eddie. At the end, and at the end, when he was had to get taken out the room, and his just visceral reaction to her, and her having to just sit down and kind of like the way she was basically hyperventilating, kind of thing. She had to kind of like, she had to kind of, what's the word? Can you is it deregulate? Is that a word?
Dysregulate.
Her
She
emotion.
was dysregulated. She needed to regulate her emotions because she
Yeah.
was dysregulated.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, that's it. Thank you, Dr. Amani.
Sorry.
Yeah, so I feel like that was just very interesting, just that whole back and forth dynamic. And I actually felt sad for him when, like, the psychologist was asking him, "Oh, why did you?" I think did he disperse some photos of her? And he said, "Oh, I did it, but then I went to her when it was her weak moment." Because then she would like me.
Yeah.
I thought that was so mind blowing to me. That was so telling and mind blowing to me. Like, that was the thought process. Like, for someone as young as that can be the thought process. So that was definitely stuck out to me. But yeah.
Out of interest, with that scene, were you like, did you feel connected to the bit where he was saying that the guys were stupid for sending the pictures around because they could have got more? So only alluding to the idea that actually, like, why would the guy have done that if he'd received a nude from a girl? Shouldn't he have been a bit more reserved in order to get more nudes? And
I thought he was going
wasn't quite
somewhere healthy
comprehending
with that, when he was like, why was he sending? Then he goes, he could have got more. I said, all right.
yeah.
Jamie's why you're here.
But how interesting that was his thought process.
Yeah.
Though.
But I thought that wasn't his original answer, and it was going to make him look crazy, and that's why he said that. Because I thought initially he said, "Oh no, maybe that's the other scene when he says she's dead. He's not going to get any more." Do you remember?
Oh no, that was same. Yeah, that was same scene.
I thought
that was.
There was a lot
I
going
thought
on
he
in that
was
scene.
initially
Yeah.
saying that, and because he knew that she was paying attention, it was going to make him look crazy. So he flipped it. That's the only reason I thought he'd done that. That's interesting.
I guess that goes to show.
Go on.
Sorry.
Go on, Mary.
I was going to say, I guess that goes to show I suppose the level of the indoctrination still is within him, even though he is sat facing a murder charge. And it hasn't registered in his head that he's killed someone. Most children know murder is going to cause you serious years in prison. But for him, his responses tell you that this indoctrination is still poisoning him from within. He hasn't kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but when you're being sent a lullaby by a mermaid and you shoot the gun to distract you. It's that not even the gunshot has woken him up. As in the gunshot is analogous to you're in prison, mate. You killed someone.
Yeah.
It's confirmed. You're still talking like someone who's almost feels justified in what he's done. But just very quickly, in my scenes, there are two actually, and they're none of what you guys have mentioned. The first one is when the dad is crying in custody, because I think the realization has hit him that his child has committed murder. And then when Jamie tries to touch him,
Yeah. And he kind of shuns Jamie. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's quite telling because it's almost a father who tried to hold on belief that his son isn't what he's being described and painted to be.
Yeah.
And when he sees the video, it's like, I don't know if it's guilt, shame, maybe a coalition of the two. But the second one is with Ashley Waters, when his son starts spinning out this whole, the manosphere, the 80-20, that you can imagine as a parent, like, so your son is holding all this information, clearly in belief of it, and you've got no idea how this is shaping him to be. And I think on two parts, for both fathers, you've got a father who's distraught about what his child has done, and you've got another father who's got no idea about what his child is doing. And I think I like the way they painted the kind of, I don't know what the word is, but the aloofness or the unawareness of what parents are experiencing.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought I was the worst actor, by the way.
Can I go next?
That child is coming down. Yeah.
Yes.
Not the black child.
Well,
I think he was supposed to be awkward.
Yeah, he was meant to be awkward.
yeah, but he was like, anyway,
You can't act.
you can't.
You guys are.
So all the black people can act.
Actually, you can't act.
No, let's leave it
See,
there.
actually, you can.
He's gotten better, but he's not Kano. He's not Kano's
Yes,
level of acting. Let's be
There were
real,
so
let's be
many
real.
people in my head that I could have put in that
But
role.
the worst actor of the whole show was Katie's friend.
Yeah, she was the worst.
So you are saying all the black actors.
She was the worst actor of the whole show.
Who's that?
She was the whole.
Oh, no. I don't think she was that bad.
The whole
still.
show. Oh, she was
The
annoying.
little-
as
the
hell.
little black girl.
I'm not having no debate over this.
She was
horrible.
annoying, man.
She was
I
awful.
don't
I
think
know
she
you're
was
grieving,
that
but
bad.
She was horrid.
Yeah, her
She
back
was not one award
This
coming
could
to
be
her.
how they were casted. Like,
She was horrid. Sorry, go on, Black Rod.
She was giving drama. Year 9
That's what
drama.
I'm saying.
Aye.
Yeah, so my favorite scene was the same as where he touched him, and then his dad wouldn't let him touch him, and he turned away. And the reason why that was my favorite scene is because that scene plays such significance once you watch episode 3 and 4, because they both recant how his dad was always ashamed of him, and whenever he's ashamed, he's away. And it just shows that like there was a level of disappointment that the dad had in his son, and his son could feel it even though he never expressed it. And even when he was like, and we talk about how he took him to football, and then he talked about how he took him to football to toughen him up, but then also acknowledged that he was good at art. So that showed that the dad had an idea of what he wanted his son to be, even though his son was probably the more arty type, and his son understood that visceral detachment between the dad who he has, who's like a muscly man's man, quote unquote, and the son who's probably more arty and I don't want to use words, but like not who his son is. And you can see that there was a juxtaposition with the son knew that he could be the person his dad wanted to be. So that kind of informed why he was so angry at life and angry at himself, because he's always trying to prove himself to his dad. And also we talk about how he wanted to bring the dad into the room with him as the
appropriate adult.
reasonable, appropriate adult. And I think that we act like he's sweet, but the son is really manipulative. What he wanted was that he wanted to bring the dad in the room, because even on the last episode, the mom said, "Hey," the dad said, "You're better at this than me. Why didn't he pick you?" So the mom and the dad acknowledged that the mom's actually more emotionally regulated, but the son wanted to bring the dad in because one, he can manipulate the dad, and two, the dad wouldn't believe what he saw anyway, but the mom would take it for what it is. And also, the son, because the son was misogynistic, he assumed he was like, "Oh, the mom's going to be too emotional, bring the dad in," but so he wouldn't bring the dad in because he knew that he can manipulate the dad, but the mom would take it for face value and say, "Okay, my son did this thing." So I think Jamie's been lying all the way through, but using his sweetness as a way to like protect himself. Because even on that, sorry, I don't want to, on that episode 3 where he's a psychologist, he was he said that he spoke, he saw the about the manosphere and stuff like that, but he wasn't really interested. But that's a lie, because the first part of that psychology thing, he was negging her. He was talking about how she was posh and making fun of her.
Look
And
at
then,
negging her. I love it.
then after that, he was like, then he was trying to be nice to her. And he was using all the tactics that the manosphere use in that psychology thing to try and make her like him, which was all like bully tactics, negging, being aggressive, but then
even when he said
showing
that, like with
affection,
Katie, he was trying to get her at her weakest moment.
Yeah.
Like, that's all
exactly.
part of that
He's got all
process.
manosphere, red pill stuff. So he's pretending like he doesn't engage that, but he's using all the tactics. So he's been lying all the way through.
That's so interesting.
Fascinating. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's very good
Black Rob.
analysis.
Jackie? Okay. Nat?
Yeah, so you're still asking which was the most, what, the scene that touched me the most?
Yes, yes. And as anybody else did, you could basically, name a couple to, go.
Okay,
knock
cool.
yourself
Yeah,
out.
yeah, because mine is I think it's been mentioned before, like when the dad was like, sorry, I could have done better when he put the teddy back. Oh man, that was, yeah. I think that whole episode 4, I think it's interesting, like when we're talking about the relationship with the mom, the sister, like his relationship with women, right? But I think what I enjoyed about this is like the character is actually complex, right? He's not, I mean, there's misogyny, right? But actually, so if you listen to, so the part where he finds out that the sister and mom are in the car, right? And then they talk about, and then they say, oh, we're going to have some Chinese, right? And then he says, oh, I think he says like, oh, chicken teriyaki, like, because that's what the sister always orders, right? And then you can see that kind of moment where they're like, yeah, like, he knows his sister, right? And then the mom says, she's like, oh, you're right. She's like, oh, I wrote to them about your allergies, right? And then if you catch, there's a part where the mom says, okay, Friday, same time. So I think what it is, it's not that he didn't want to talk to the mom and the sister. Clearly, he talks to mom on Fridays, right?
No,
So
I think it was
that's
Jamie
what.
that said that though. Was it not? Same time
What?
Friday.
No.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
mum?
I'm not sure who. I think it was the mom, but anyway, they agreed that same time Fridays, which means I think that's their time. So I didn't take it as, he just doesn't talk to the mom. I think in that moment, it's dad's birthday, right? And he has to tell dad that this is what I've decided, right? And probably in his mind, he still has this whole like man macho thing. So I think it's not as like obvious, like, oh, he doesn't care about women, which is what makes the character have more texture, because you can tell he's a little bit sweet, like the fact that like he remembers this, and you can tell that when the sister is breaking down, that calm moment, my god. And another scene was when uh Ashley's character, Detective Luke, whatever, right? At the end, like when Ryan is arrested, right, the other guy with the other child, and then he goes back to his son, and they're having that moment where they're going out to eat, and you can tell that the son is opening up, right? I thought that was interesting because he 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 didn't miss the moment. He realized that, okay, I need to use this moment to kind of continue building that trust. I mean, there's so many more, but I'll end it there.
Do you think with this? Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say, sorry, that it's not that I'm saying that he doesn't care about his mum and sister. What I'm saying is he doesn't rate women. I think that's quite clear that he doesn't really rate them. His dad's a man's man. The granddad sounds like a man's man. And so he's thinking, that's what I need to be. I'm not that, and I need to be that. So you lot later. That's what he's thinking, in my opinion. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I
that he
mean,
doesn't
the
talk
only
to
thing
them.
I'll push back on that is that I think what I took from it is there's no absolutism, right? And that's the human experience, right? So I don't think it would be fair to blanketly say he doesn't rate women. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There probably is some truth to it, but it's not as black and white, which is what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's not pushing. I'm not pushing back on what you said, but just to add to what Gigi said, I think it's kind of what Black Rob was saying, where it's like, it's almost like he doesn't feel like his mum can handle conversations, kind of like about the case. So if I'm gonna go with what Nat's saying about, this is Nat, right?
Yes.
Yes. If I'm gonna go with like they have the Friday conversations. And it's stuff like, oh, I want to let them know about your allergy. I'm gonna it's like it's conversations about his well-being. It's like mum playing mum role of taking care of him even while he's in prison. But then when it comes to things about the case. That's why he wanted his dad in there. When it's I'm gonna plead guilty. It's I'm calling dad to let him know that this is what I'm gonna do. Almost like she can't handle that. That she might be too emotional about it or whatever the case might be. So she can't handle that. But I think that's very interesting. Just quickly, Adele says, I disagree with the victim's best friend being a bad actress. I think her portrayal of her grief was great. She said that Katie was the only one who thought she was normal and now she's all alone. Fair. Big up Adele. That's fair. Yeah.
That's fair.
Because Brent's laughing.
Thank you.
I just think she could have portrayed it well.
Thank you, Nat. Who is next? Is it Bambino?
Dysfunctional as well.
She was awful.
But I think she was
Is it about what's
I guys can hear me.
That's what.
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I had a similar scene. Sorry, there's a bit of echo, but yeah, I think someone else might have mentioned it, but the scene where he asked the woman if she liked him, and it kind of added a bit of grey area to kind of maybe go against what some of the recent comments were about him not rating women, because I guess if he didn't rate women, why would he ask her opinion on that, if that makes sense? But yeah, I'll just keep it brief for now.
Cool.
I think with that point though, I don't think it's about not rating women, it's about the function of women.
Yeah.
It has an idea about the roles and the functions that particular genders play. That's it. I don't think he doesn't not rate women.
It's just he thinks
per se.
Yeah.
They serve a function in his mind.
All right.
I agree, bro.
All right. Therapists. What are some of the themes that you plucked from the first episode?
Ooh. Oh, we'll go episode by episode.
Yeah, I think it's easier that way.
Oh, do you know one of the main ones in the first one for me?
What?
Adultification.
Please break that down for us. When you're
so I guess adultification is based on the idea that with children who are from ethnic minority backgrounds, and if we talk about black kids, they're often seen as more adult-like, more grown up by professionals, by the systems around them, which means that they're often then also seen as less vulnerable and less innocent. And in the whole first scene, I was really curious about how this is playing out. So again, I'd never seen like armed police come up to a yard. I was like, I kind of appreciate it because it felt like that bit was consistent. I think they would rock like that to anybody's yard.
Yeah.
Then when they got in the house, I was like, I think this is where things might be playing out from and I don't want to kind of like race bait, but from a race perspective, because I was intrigued. As soon as they got into his room, I was wondering, would they have just let any kid chill in a bed like that? Or would they have told the kid to get out and handcuff him? At no point was Jamie handcuffed. And I think there was something about how the situation around the police anyway, how they adultify children generally. But then as soon as they got into the room, and you mentioned it before, I think Jamie pissing himself infantilized them, and I think that put them off guard.
Okay.
And I actually think that then they started to... I think that was one feature, but I also think him being a white boy added to that.
Yeah.
I think him being a white boy produced innocence.
Yeah.
Can I add to that? Because I was thinking about that when I was watching it, and I was thinking that the... what's his name? Ashley Walters, his character... I was wondering, as a black man, in his experience, is he conscious about how to treat people because he recognises that there's a possibility for mistreatment in his like role of power? So that's when I thought the same thing. I thought, are they treating him like this because he's an innocent white boy? But maybe because he's a black man, he's trying to show that, we don't need to exercise power in this way.
I don't think black boys are being treated
I thought because it was a dad though. I thought because it had a son.
I don't think black boys are being treated.
Yeah.
But most police officers are dads. So for me, that means nothing, if I'm honest. I think it is a system that usually adultifies people or picks and chooses when they see people as children and when they see them as adults.
It's the same thing that happened to Dylan Roof. They brought him like these. They walked him out. He wasn't handcuffed. He wasn't treated like shit. They bought him food. So I agree with that.
I found it really, really fun. And then even in the car journey, and again, I'm a big... I think about language a lot and the things that people say, and his use of the word son, when Jamie got into the police station and custody sergeant kept calling him son, I was like, I don't think black boys are being called son in these spaces. So what kind of dynamic is this already creating?
God, no, Chris's.
I was literally like, no, I was really deep in the show on a different one. Everything that was being said, how it was being said. And I guess this is the psychology brain.
That's
that
an
we
interesting
have.
thing, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that was on purpose or that was just by default bias?
Unconscious bias.
What the son like? Which
No, I think it was on purpose.
The race element that you picking up on
Oh, that they've included it
by the writers, yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I think the kid had to be white. Personally, I think he had to be.
Yeah.
I don't know if they thought as far into the adultification bit, and I'm hoping that they did. But yeah, fair, yeah.
I feel like they didn't, you know.
Could I?
Yeah, of course.
Is it possible that I could speak on that?
Who's that?
Because I've seen Stephen Graham.
Badu.
No, I've seen. I've seen Stephen Graham like talking in the interviews, like saying that he was like racially abused when he was a kid because like he's mixed race. So he could have done that on purpose to like.
Yeah.
Okay, to highlight that.
Yeah, I hear it.
Fair.
That's what I got.
Also, when you're writing, as a writer, when you're writing, you're thinking about all those things. You're thinking about it right down to the T. I'm telling you. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did
As
intentionally. Intentionally.
Do you also think that they were nice to him because they already had the tape? So do you know if you've gone catch a robber and you've already got all the evidence, 90% of the evidence, you're a bit more like. But if I don't know.
The only reason I disagree with that is because I think with their profession, they're often quite hardened anyway. I think for the interaction that I've had with police officers, from a personal perspective as well as a professional perspective, I think they are taught to be quite objective, which often means quite hard in their approach. So I was somewhat fascinated by the calm approach that was taken, especially with an M charge. I was like, what is going on here? Like I appreciate the fact that they've almost taken a child approach, but I'm wondering, why did you take the child approach, and would that have been consistent if it was a black kid?
To be fair, the way they were, I'm so sorry. The way they were moving, I actually didn't think they had the evidence they had because of the way they were talking to him and all that kind of stuff. It felt like they would have wanted him. They kind of were trying to sweeten him up so that he can then come forward willingly with information. So when I found out they had information, I was like, oh, it's very nice.
But they also need to remember that he's young, he's under a certain age. Because I studied criminology, I remember this was a big deal with some of our cases. He's young, and then you also, when they come into your house, they have to let you come out of your bed. You could have anything with you.
100%.
And I think they mentioned that.
Like, anything that you have in you that could harm me. But it's
even harm yourself.
But it's just the next approach to that, because again, with the population that I work with, they would have been very surprised watching that and been like, that's not how it runs.
That's not how we
It don't go like that.
Yeah.
What were your themes, Dr. Amani?
Episode 1. This is hard because I thought about it more generally, so I'm trying to remember all the themes like per episode. I definitely think I was picking up on the race thing as well, like how they were treating them, and then even their family as well. I found that quite interesting because when I've worked with families, you can see the difference when it's a black family versus a white family. You can see how professionals interact with people. And I think they were respectful, as you should be to everybody. But I was curious about whether it would be consistent as well. I was thinking a little bit around, how would they respond to someone asking questions? Would they shut it down? Would they be open and have those conversations with people? Is it going to be consistent? Yeah, so I was picking up on a similar thing around race, really. Yeah.
Nat, I don't think we have you anymore. Cool. You've gone.
Hey.
That's not Nat.
It's Jackie, sorry.
Go on, Jackie.
I was distracted before. However, I don't know whether anyone missed these themes of teachers and how inadequate they were with the emotional training. And I think that's why schools are really big on promoting it. If you look at the man, I think he's a
Mr. Malik. Malik.
The new teacher.
Mr. Malik.
The new teacher. And if you've been in schools, you realise that they really depicted poor teachers, not in terms of the pedagogy, i.e. the content of the subject, but just how to nurture children. And I think the good thing about this show is that it's not just the parents that parents a child. Your local parenting, so the minute you've got authority over a child, you should be providing that social, emotional needs for the child. That's another argument. People think, well, if I'm a teacher, then that's all I'm here to teach. I'm not here to do other things, but you are. And I think a lot of teachers in outside, like from the countryside, the sticks, where everything's hunky-dory, they come into inner city schools thinking they've got the skills, but they really don't have what it takes to teach those kids. They've got the knowledge, but they don't have the other. Because what I think the other doctor that said, you know someone that's killed a person, you know the victim as well. Every child murderer has a teacher. And those teachers know that they were potential killers. They spot the signs. And if you didn't, that's the problem. If you spend 6 hours with a child a week and you can't identify that this boy's a potential killer, you haven't really gotten to know the children. And that's another issue that other themes in the film that teachers should explore.
Did you also notice that Mr. Malik was a history teacher? Jamie's favorite subject.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. The black mob stealing my shit, stealing my sauce. That's exactly what I was gonna say. He said, "You're right." He did. He said, the black mob's right. He said, and I was gonna ask whether he was lying, if he said that to seem as if he was a kid that was interested in school to the police, or did he say that because he was being honest and the answers were always there? Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, he said
I think he was being honest.
Like lying, remember?
I think he was being honest there because I think they're trying to show that. I think they're trying to show that teacher, the teacher was the most disheveled and he was the one that cared the least. And Jamie's a smart kid. It's a smart kid. So imagine a really smart kid in a class with a teacher like that. He would just run circles.
But did he care the least, or he was just least experienced in behavior management?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, he's the least. And also, he didn't command respect. Did you notice there was another Indian teacher that was really big and tall and like muscle bound? And when he told the class to be quiet, they all shut up. And they're showing the juxtaposition between like that's positive masculinity. So he was aggressive, assertive, but like it was used in a positive aspect to calm the class down.
But Dr. Malik wasn't there though, Black Rob, remember? When they walked into the class, he wasn't there. It wasn't until they were saying, where's the teacher? Then he popped in. So he was never there. I don't think he's ever present in the class. I think he just leaves a movie on and then ducks.
Yeah, it's funny how we got the movie up. Yeah.
It's not that easy to just misbehave as teachers. But also the other theme is, was his dad misogynistic? His dad really did the best he could with all the things he had. And I think it was really good how great their marriage.
Whose dad are you saying this about?
The main dad.
Jamie's dad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The dad said, I did my best.
I'm going to query that still.
Hold on, the dad said, I did better than my dad. So if you say, for example, my dad's an abuser, he's saying that I did better than him. With the tools I had, I did better. I thought I was doing a good job. And if you watch when they're in the van, they have such a beautiful love scene. And you can see that the dad loved the mum. And typically you'd associate a murderer with a misogynistic murderer as someone whose mum... Hello?
We can hear you. I did just talk it out.
Yeah, I don't get it. I was like, doing a me now. Look, the scene in the car showed that they were in love and they were childhood sweethearts and they still were able to reminisce. That was so important for you to see that sometimes you assume that people come from bad homes, but they don't. People come from single parent homes, but they don't. And people are misogynistic. His dad wasn't misogynistic. The mum was just a very feminine woman. And then the dad was the mum was demure, the mum was soft, and the dad allowed her to do that. The scene in the kitchen when they said, let's move.
Sorry, Jackie, pause for a second, right? So what happens, right? When you have a microphone to you, right? The audience is hearing you. And always also fighting to hear Jackie, right?
I can hear Jackie at the same time. Jackie, you're saying very good points that is making us spark into conversation.
No, what I'm saying is, if the scene when I think they moved to Liverpool or something, and one of them said, should we move again? And the other person, the other parent said, no. That's a good marriage where they're able to decide on something where the mum isn't, okay, let me listen to what the dad says, let me not have an opinion. The mum naturally is a softer character, but she wasn't made that because of the dad. And that's so important to note that not all society had a bigger part to play in his and that influenced him more than his home.
But you didn't realize it was the dad saying we're not moving, right? The dad was like, this ain't running, we're not moving. And if the mum was saying that, I think Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the mum could have said that, if I'm honest. That we are not
But she even
married.
had a thought. If you were in a bad marriage, you wouldn't even say that. You wouldn't even utter that because there's been a bad marriage from the beginning. The dad didn't blame the mum. They sat down and said, "Where did we go wrong?"
All right, so
So many
irrespective
people,
of the
when
marriage
some
bit,
people,
like you're saying that it wasn't a bad marriage, do you think they were good parents? Or maybe that's
they
too
did their
No, ask
best.
that. I want
I
to
think that's quite a heavy question. It's
But they did
loaded.
their best. He said, "My dad was X, Y, Z to me, so I promised I wouldn't do that." So I thought I was doing the right thing. How many of our parents have done the best and still got the wrong results?
No, I disagree, man.
If he was in a different environment, what? So many parents
We
try their
disagree. It's
best,
the parents' fault.
You
better
can
than their
idolize people with
parents.
It's the
flaws.
parents' fault.
It's
It's the
heavy.
parents' fault.
Because I
I
can't
am
say it's
definitely-
solely the parents. I think they contributed to
Parents'
it.
fault.
I can't say that it was.
Contributes to it, but they didn't intentionally. You know, some people leave their kids to their own device. The dad thought he
No,
was
but
doing the
you know
right
they
thing.
did.
He
They left
mentioned
them
how
to his own
bad his dad
devices. They
was.
did.
No, they said it went upstairs. So some people, even now, that's another conversation. When your child is in the house, you think they're safe because they're not out there doing crime or being killed. But in the house, what's going on in their home, in their mind? So they think they're doing the best thing. Like, oh, let me keep him safe. Let him go out and play out. He's in the house. He's upstairs. He's fine. He's safe. But is he? And that's why the conversation is sparking with parents. How good is it that your child is just indoors and all they're seeing is devices?
Yes.
What
So they
information is
failed.
feeding them? So the dad said, we all see those things, but we scroll past it. I've seen those things and I scroll past it. But
you
clearly he
also-
didn't.
But you also have the adult mind and executive functioning to do so.
Yeah.
A child doesn't have that in the same way. But
How
also as
educated
well,
is
in terms
dad?
of generationally, Jackie, I'm thinking a little bit about how educated parents would be on something like social media. So again, their ignorance down to age and what they've been exposed to, although with best intentions, it can still be harmful. So it's not to then put morality on what they've done. We can just say that their inaction is still harmful. And that's the conversation, isn't it? Okay, where do we go from here? Yes, we're all trying our best, but we could acknowledge that we're trying our best and we can still do more with new information. And I think that's where the social media comes in.
Paradoxically, when you saw with Ashley Walters' character, D.I. Bascom, I think his name was, we saw that he didn't pay attention to his son. We saw that his son called in the first episode, I'm going to call in sick today. So Ashley was like, yeah, it's just my son being stupid. But it wasn't. We saw later on that the child was being bullied. We saw later on that he understands and he sees the whole 80-20 manosphere, red pill, blah, blah. But then Ashley sees where his son could go and decided at the end of that episode, I'm going to take you out to eat. Because even prior to that, when he was talking to him, he said, you know what? The son said to him, you know what? You can just go gym. Go do work because that's all you ever want to do anyway. So his dad saw that and decided to do right by him. So
But you do realise he only did that because Jamie killed somebody.
Exactly. But
The dad wouldn't have been on that.
But he's still trying. That's still the dad learning
I hear
and
it.
doing better.
But
Jamie's dad didn't have
arguably
the
we
charm.
could say that the other dad was gonna do the same. It
But
was
he
just too
didn't.
late. It was
He
just
left
too
him.
late.
He just left- he
But
didn't
he
talk
might
to him.
but he might do that for his daughter.
Yeah, 100%.
Ashley Waters didn't talk to his son. Ashley Waters didn't know his son was being bullied. His son could have done
I
the
said
same
he did
thing,
that in
and
the end.
that's
He
another
turned.
point to make.
The turning
No, but
point.
that's another point to make where you think that only good parents make good children. It doesn't always correlate.
Say
So
that,
the fact
say that
they
again,
show a
Jackie.
police officer, good parents make good children, is not always the same. A doesn't equal B.
I don't know
His
about
son
that.
could have done
I don't
the
know
same
about that.
thing.
I guess maybe that's part
Definitely,
of
it's
the...
not always. There's outliers.
Yeah,
But
I guess
can I-
that speaks to the multi-level factors that are involved, right? And that's what the conversation has been around. It's like, and your question, Ramzi, was like, okay, who's to blame?
Yes.
Right? I think,
Everybody.
you know what, I'm also conscious that you want this to be
Everybody.
moderated. People probably want this to be moderated properly, and we've steered off. So that's
People
why...
get nuts, girl.
That's why I've been holding off my point, because I feel like we're steering
No,
off.
say it.
But everyone hasn't done their scene or
No,
whatever.
say it,
Okay,
say it.
cool.
I mean, we've swiftly moved on.
Yeah,
we
we
moved
know,
on to episode 1, and like
I
it's
know,
gone
I
everywhere.
know.
Don't worry, Nat's not here, so you can run it.
Huh?
Run 'em up.
That's
Rat's
off
not
for the
here.
moment. They're gone.
Definitely say your thing.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
interested.
cool. So you're asking whose fault is it?
Yes.
The issue is that everyone has a part to play,
Yes.
right? So when we're working with people, we use. I'm a Bronfenbrenner girl. Are you a
100%,
Bronfenbrenner? Yeah, of course.
100%,
So
yeah.
Bronfenbrenner is a psychologist that made a model called the ecological systems model.
Okay.
And the idea is that when you're working with an individual, you're never just working with the individual.
It's community.
Yeah, you're working with the family,
People,
the community,
systems.
the school, and politics, and you keep going outwards.
Society,
and
culture,
society,
yeah.
culture, ideologies, yeah, and they all interact with each other, and you have to be considerate of how they interact with each other, but also the degree to which they do and at what time. Yeah, so yes, the parents have a part to play in it, yeah? And the degree to which they have a part to play with it will be relevant when he's in the household. And they will be teaching him things and instilling things in him. And then you hope, right? You hope that your child goes out into the world and takes everything. But they're going to face other things. Yeah. And if those things are failing, you've got another gap where your child can fall through. You can hope that what you've instilled is enough to protect them from it, but it's not always the case. Okay. So that's why you have to think about every single level and every single system and how they interact with each other. So again, I think Jackie was talking about the school. When he goes out into the school, whole different thing at play here. We've got under-resourced schools. We have children from a particular social and economic background who there's associations with different difficulties there as well. Even one of the teachers said, oh, we social workers as well. Yes, because these kids are bringing their lives into school. So they're having to think about all of that. Then you have teachers who have their own backgrounds, who could be traumatized, who could not have their own skills, who could have money issues, all of this stuff contributing to their capacity to care for the child. So do you see how all of these things end up interplaying with each other?
I do, and it's a very good point.
Yes.
But call it idealistic.
Yeah.
But if the lines of communication aren't open between the child and their parents, then something will slip through.
I agree.
That was my argument when I was talking to my friends. I blame the parents. Yeah, there is a community, but it starts at home. So if my child feels, or I'm seeing he's been indoctrinated, if I'm not talking to my child and I'm not getting to know him, he will get indoctrinated.
I agree with that.
Because I need to be able to nip anything. If my son comes to me now and says, oh, did you know that 80% of women are like 20% of men? I'm like, what? Immediately, I'm shutting it down. But he was allowed to almost grow and, what's the word I'm looking for? Almost incubate, for lack of a better word. He incubated in that environment to create the person he's become, and that only happened because of the parents.
Absolutely, and I think that's a fair point. But to add to it, I think, I guess this is where my somewhat comes in, because I absolutely agree. Yeah, but then the somewhat comes into it in that you probably have the capacity and willingness to do so. Not everyone has the capacity for whatever reason. So the capacity could be because they don't have the education around social media. We've already highlighted that as an issue.
Okay, cool.
The capacity could be because the dad started doing extra hours at work, right? He hasn't got the actual time to do it. Why? That's a political issue, yeah? So that's how that feeds into it. Also as well, his trauma, intergenerational trauma happens as well. So that can affect capacity. And then the willingness means...
I disagree with that.
You disagree
I'm with you a little bit, but
if he's got trauma, because he said, my dad used to beat me, I'm never doing that with my son.
Yeah.
So you know what the effects, or the effects that he had, he's not going to repeat it to his son. So he wasn't able to, what I gathered, he wasn't able to open up to his dad. So why are you repeating that with your son?
Yeah, but he's not repeating beating his child. But sometimes people don't realize that you can avoid this particular trauma. You can avoid inflicting this trauma on your child because it's something that you've gone through. But then there are also other different things that you might not think about. So for him, he's thinking, I'm not going to beat my child, so that means I'm a great dad. Yeah. But then if you're not there for your child emotionally, if you're not spending time with your child, if your child can't communicate with you, yes, this one trauma they haven't got, but then they've got other things.
Still be the same.
Do you know what I mean? Even like when he did try not to embarrass his child, he's seen that as a good thing. He's thinking, okay, I'm going to look away so I don't embarrass him. But then what that makes his son feel rejected. Do you get me? So as a parent, you can try and avoid one thing and think that you're doing your best in that. But then unfortunately, the way your child will receive that could then inflict something else, like a different issue on them that you didn't even think you were inflicting on them.
So going back to this Bronfenbrenner model, for me, parents are the first line of emotional defense.
Absolutely.
Like, I think... So I somewhat agree that a lot of stuff should be happening in the household. I don't think parents are curious enough generally about the kids. They're not curious about who their friends are hanging around 100%. With. They're not curious about what they're doing on social media, the games that they're playing. And for whatever reason that might be, parents aren't curious enough. But I also want to say that we have to go back to this, it takes a village mentality, because it does take a village. So I don't want to put all the blame on parents, because there are systems around kids that also need to be playing parental roles, and they're not.
Yeah, and this is the thing as well. I do think parents are the first line of defense.
100%.
100%, and I'm not disagreeing with that.
Yeah, that's my point.
My point is, I guess what we're doing here is like we're doing a why question. Okay, so I'm theorizing about all the whys about why they couldn't do something. Yes, but there has to be a level of responsibility at every level and action at every level as well. So as much as I can empathize with the parents, okay, now you know what we're doing about it, right? And then that's where people like, we might come along. So I work with parents and I have worked with parents who have been like, you know, he started to use all these sexist slurs, like a mum crying, like he started to call me a bitch and a slut and all of this stuff because she turned off the water because he wasn't using the shower. She left the shower running, he wasn't using it, she needs to save water, she turns it off, it comes out, he's being fucking bitch. And she's like, where did that come from? I have to have a conversation about social media. She goes, yeah, I kind of leave him, like he does his thing. And I said, would you leave your son in a room with 1,000 people unattended? Would you just let him go out into the room? And she was like, no. I said, well, that's what you're doing.
That's a good analogy.
That's what you're
really
doing.
good, yeah.
And it hits home, and then that's when they realise, okay, I've helped you now, educated you. Now what you're going to
Use
do
those
about
tools,
it. Now use the tools, So I think you have to do both. You have to understand the why, give the people the information so that they can learn, but they also have to have action, but they also have to have the resources and structural policies and resources to put in the action as well. That's why I'm saying it's complicated. It's not that I disagree, but it's just like, in practice, it becomes really, really complicated.
I think the generational aspect is massive to acknowledge as well. Because as millennials, we know life before social media. And our parents, I guess our parents were... I know my boys' parents because I had to knock on their doors and I had to speak to mum and dad. I was ringing house lines. I had to speak to mum and dad. And kids don't have to do that anymore, which means that parents don't have to interact with other parents at all.
At most, it's on a WhatsApp group.
All.
Yeah. The reason why I think
and I hate that.
Question. Sorry to interrupt. I've got a question for Dr. Amani and Dr. Ron.
Sorry,
so
hold
I'm
on
a
to your question
psychotherapist.
for a second. Don't forget that question, please. Go on, Gigi.
The reason I think it's harsh is because you guys have stated that some parents aren't curious, but what about the parents who are curious and their children still go down that road?
No, I wouldn't blame them. And I think the whole model of the Bronfenbrenner is to almost not put blame at one part of a microsystem. For me, you cannot solely blame parents. You cannot do that. You cannot. Because there are so many systems around young people that have also failed Jamie, if we make it about Jamie. Facts. Facts.
When you look at today, most parents are protecting their children. They're saying, don't go here. So they keep them inside the house. Because they're thinking it's safe.
Exactly.
So they're doing their duty. Do you know what I mean? But what you need protecting from is your phone.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
so you know what I mean? So you're protecting on the outside, but on the inside, you're just, there's no protection.
Well, they don't even know what's going on the inside though. And that's a generational thing.
That's a generational thing, 100%.
Some, like you said, we grew up with social media. Like we've actually seen social media from inception to what it is now. The older generation haven't. Like some of them don't even understand what it's for, like what goes. But I feel like that analogy, I'm going to hold on to that in terms of like, would you leave your child in a room with 1,000 strangers? But not many people can understand that.
100%. I mean, beyond that though, because generational, I get it. There was no communication. So that's it. I get what you're saying. They held him at home, but what's the point in holding him at home if you're not talking to him?
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Where did you see specifically there was no communication?
They had no idea what was going on. They had no idea how he felt.
But that's what she's saying. How do you know that though?
Because there's no communication. You can't go from.
But he's not going to say that though.
How many children talk to you at under 16? And I've worked in Prues, I've gone to Felton, worked with all these kids, and they charges all kinds. Their parents didn't know anything, and they knew. They were like, that's my best friend. How? Because children hide. People hide.
People can't go from zero to killing a girl.
Remember, when you're writing, there's things that they're never going to reveal to us. It's just for us to have dialogue.
That's why. Yeah, that's why we're coming up.
Yeah. So we're coming up with things. We're thinking it's this and this, but actually we don't know. We don't know what the communication was like.
There was none.
Realistically, you say that, but we don't actually know. We know what they showed us.
But to add on to Gigi's, what Gigi's saying as well, that lady in the third episode was his third psychologist. His third or fourth psychologist, and there was things that he revealed to her that he hadn't revealed to other ones. So, as a parent, like I think it's very hard. As close as you can be to your child or whatever, for many different reasons, they may not share every single thing with you.
Did you share everything with your parents?
I spoke to my mum a lot, yeah.
But did you share everything?
No, because there's stuff
exactly.
that. But my mum was curious. So when I spoke to me and my siblings, we were all open. We spoke about where you going, what's going on with this, what's going on. My mum knew what was going on. So I still stick to the main thing. You can't go from zero to killing someone.
You can.
You
really can. I won't.
When you're saying that, what do you mean by from zero to?
So they went from he was just in his room to we killed someone. There is cues.
Well, they knew his friends. They knew what school he went to. Like they knew these things, but you can know these things and not know your child is being indoctrinated as even if you're the closest to them. Like these things are possible. There was Taser mentioned it one time on Free Shots, and he was talking about like a psychologist or something like that, but how like when kids are a certain age, around that teen, the only people they essentially trust are people their age. As that you can be as close to them as you want as a parent or whatever, but those are the people that they will do anything for.
That becomes
They
their family.
trust them
That is their
wholeheartedly, and you could be you could be the most active parent, you can be the most present parent, but that child that's their age mates, that's who they completely trust. Like in terms psychologically.
It wasn't his knife as well.
So what you do then is you know those
It wasn't
kids.
his knife.
Their
But
parents.
that's the thing, though. You can know you can know your child. You can know your child's friends. You can see them all come to your house for sleepovers. You can know all these things, but it's still possible for you not to know certain things about the things that they.
Yes, of
How I
course.
choose to present.
There's
Yeah,
certain
how I
things,
choose to
but
present to you,
not my child is willing to stab a girl. There's two very different things.
No,
It
bro, I
wasn't his
can't.
knife.
Like my
I think
child is being
everyone
sexually
mentioned that
active
it
at a young
wasn't his
age
knife.
or anything like that is very different. Or my child stole from a shop or he's a kleptomaniac or something like that is different. I'm talking about something as heinous as killing someone. You understand? If he's friends with someone, you know their parents, you know the way they grow up, you know how they communicate, you know how they act in your house, you know how they act in school, you're talking. You need to communicate with his teacher or with your child's teacher, with your child's friends, like they said, with the community. That way you're better to paint a picture about your child.
But
You
again,
can't
it's
go
the-
from 0 to 100.
But again,
They fail.
it's about the masking though, because again, say you do have active parents, you have present parents, they talk to you all the time, blah blah blah. You are aware that this is how your parents see you. So even if you say you have like quote unquote bad conversations with your friends, you're not going to share that with your parent because you're still aware of how it is they see you. You're still aware of like the image that they have of you. Like I understand how they're still your parents. Like no matter how close you are and whatever, they can be your best friends or whatever the case is. There's something about knowing how it is that people see you, and then over time you then playing into that role, and that's kind of what we saw with him, where he's adamant like, no, Dad, trust me, I didn't do it. I really didn't do it. But then we see on video that you did do it. So you could be the most active parent, but I feel like when you have relationships with people, if you're aware of how people see you, doesn't matter how close you are, like even like with your friendships and stuff, there's things that you would do that you know that your friends would never expect you to do, and because of that embarrassment you feel like they might feel, you wouldn't share with them. And it's not because they're not good friends, not because they don't care about your life, not because they don't know so much about you, but this thing that is out of character or that I know doesn't fit in the dynamic of what our relationship is, I'm not going to share that with you.
Okay,
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. My argument is, if there was line of communication, I feel like that would have him killing someone wouldn't have happened. It would have been less likely. That's the only point I'm making.
I agree. And I think your point stands in terms of there needs to be curiosity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then so when I'm working with kids that, mostly when they're adopted and fostered and stuff, we use like a PACE model. We use PACE. Yeah, so basically PACE stands for playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. It's a way in which to build empathy, connection, with someone. Yeah, so the C is curiosity.
Yeah.
You need to be curious to build connection with someone. And it starts from very young. Personally, so me and my mum are like close, very, very close, yeah? But that's because I remember being in primary school, her picking me up and being like, what's going on in the playground? And looking back, I know I was saying the dumbest shit, right?
Yeah.
But she'd be like, oh, really? Like, and to the point where when I got older and my issues started to be more serious and grown up, I had no issue going to her. Obviously, she didn't know all my business, but I had no issue because she was curious.
But you see that though, even you are very close to your mum, but she doesn't know all my business.
Yeah, because
But that's a fact. No parent will know 100% of their child's business.
But that's why we say that it's possible for, in your words, for a child to go from 0 to that 100.
No, but I think it's not possible from a child to go to 0 from 1 to 100 without somebody in the system seeing red flags. I don't think that's possible.
That's my point.
I agree
Exactly.
with that. I don't think that's
No,
possible.
that part.
everybody
That
was
part.
working-
Some form of red flag.
I think someone in
Whether
Go back to
that's his-
somebody.
whether that's his
Somebody
friends.
said
Somebody
but doesn't
in
mean your
different
parents.
in
Because
different
his friend is the
areas.
one that gave him the knife.
No,
But
but
I think your friends will see
but it's
the
the
red
somebody.
flags.
He's saying
Exactly.
parent.
I agree
He's saying
with that.
somebody.
But somebody will see red
There was
flags.
somebody within all the
Bro, I can
communities,
speak on my- I
but
can speak
because
for-
he's saying parent, it's like it's solely on parents.
yeah.
It's possible for teachers to see red flags.
Yeah.
It's possible and just ignore and just think, oh, he's just being a naughty
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
It's possible for friends to see that. It's possible for even strangers on the road to see that. But then again, it's that masking when you then get back home. Do you get what I mean?
But that also speaks to how teachers engage with their students, because like the Jade girl, the black girl, when she lashed out, there was that teacher in the orange who had already created a and engaged with her on an emotional as to why she lashed out. But every time a boy lashed out on that show, it outside of Jamie, they were just dealt with like aggression from like other male teachers. So when a boy lashes out, they don't look for the why. They go stop it. But when Jay did it, they were like they looked to see the why, even though she beat a guy up. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's where
So
the curiosity needs to come in for everybody, including young boys. You have to be curious about what this behavior means, because behavior is communication. That's what it is all the time. So you have to
and I'm
stay
with Ramsey
curious.
as well.
Pardon, what was that?
So I said I'm with Ramsey because I think the parents are their son had revenge porn. He was out at 10 a.m. on a school night and they didn't know where he was. They bought him a computer, left it in his room, and didn't supervise it at all. He was getting bullied at school. They didn't know nothing about it. There were so many chances to catch what was going on. They just, I think being passive parent is sometimes even worse than. Do you know what I mean? Because you said, oh, naivety, but naivety is a death sentence at this stage.
Yeah, they have to learn, like, absolutely. And they have to put in the things. Yes, why is your 13-year-old at them times? When I saw that bit, I was like, what? And I have these same conversations with parents, and they're like, yeah, they came in at like 2 a.m. What do you mean they came in at 2 a.m.? What do you mean? And then I get the older kids. You can't tell them nothing anymore because they've been going out until 2 a.m. since they were 11, right? So you have to nip it in the bud from very early. There has to be boundaries. And this is, I think, when I say some of these things about like being curious and stuff, some people, I'm not saying you guys, but some people will be like, oh, like you just want them to be soft, or we're just being too soft on them. No, you still need to have firm boundaries. And some of those things, like you're being back in this house at this time. And I have to help parents talk about being like, I will call the police on you. Yeah, because again, it's a village, and sometimes I have to teach them that there are real life consequences to what you're doing. So it seems scary.
Is that how you would have worked with Jamie?
What was that? Sorry.
I'm very curious because I don't want to deter the sort of conversation here, but at the same time, I'm wondering about Jamie from Adolescence. So I'm going to ask Dr. Ron.
Before
Dr.
you
Amani.
finish that, are you the person who wanted to ask a question to the therapist?
Yeah.
I think he's just done
Is this the question?
Yeah. This is the question.
Beautiful. I really wanted to make sure that person asked that question. Go on.
Yeah, so I'm a psychotherapist in training. So I'm training, and I think a lot of the things that you said touched on is very important here. The socio-economic situations, especially in schools. So I'm also a one-to-one TA where I'm hustling out to be a psychotherapist here, but and also being a dad and so forth and whatnot. But what I want to emphasize is how do we deal, or not trying to find a goal here, but because I want to utilize you two being in this space and speaking about this. How do we sort of help Jamie in that sort of space there? Are we using modalities like CBT? Are we using psychodynamic? Of course, you can use so many different modalities in the therapy space, but I work with a placement that only works with 6 sessions, right? And imagine if I don't really pick that up, or I flag it, and obviously I can put it in my notes with IAPT and with the NHS and so forth. However, what is the best way that we can deal with Jamie? Because are we saying that we can still work with Jamie, but Jamie can still do those type of things? So I'm trying to especially you guys being qualified, I just want to know what's your sort of take and how do you approach someone like Jamie? Obviously you've seen the psychologist in the TV show, but I want to engage with your sort of perspective, how you would sometimes engage with someone like Jamie that comes into your therapy room.
Before you answer that, can we break down the language you just used? You said modality, you said succession.
So modality.
CBT,
so the first
cognitive behavioral therapy.
So the first word, I think you said modality. So modalities refer to the type of therapy you're using. So there's different types of therapy that have different approaches to how you can see change happen. Some of them focus on very much here and now. Here are the skills to deal with your anxiety, for example. Some of them are a bit more interested in the past. So they're thinking about reflecting about the past. So yeah, that's what it means by modality. What were the other ones?
Yeah, I kind of referred to mainly like CBT or
cognitive
like
behavioral therapy.
Cognitive behavior therapy or psychodynamic that kind of leads on sort of Freud sort of modality, basically looking at the origins. Because at schools, for example, schools implement. Obviously, I have no shame in saying that I'm in the Croydon area. So in the schools that we have Place to Be. I'm not sure if you guys know about that organization. Yeah, so we've got Place to Be that kind of works with kids, right? So therefore, is it something with Jamie? Is it something that we see from school there? Or if we didn't catch it there, then what happens later on? And what happens with Jamie in society, or he comes into therapy? So yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you heard at the start, but I predominantly only work with boys and men. And I take various different approaches to my work and I guess I work with perpetrators, I work with people that witness violence or victims of it. One of the issues for me is just the repeated exposure to trauma generally. Like a lot of the boys that I work with, a lot of boys generally are having to navigate what I call unacknowledged trauma. Actually, they don't even know they have it. And repeated exposure to lots of different traumatic situations, whatever they are, again, whether that's direct, witnessed, or even just vicariously felt through social media or their friends, it's eliciting so many different trauma responses, like emotional numbing, hypervigilance, disrupted sleep. But the one that really hits me as a man is that young boys have a deep internalized fear against people that look like them, other boys. And I think that really saddens me. And because I predominantly do a lot of work with black boys, it saddens me more that fear is usually around other black boys. So when it comes to like the parent work that I do, number one, I'm telling parents, you need to normalize having conversations about psychological and emotional pain from the get-go. How are you modeling vulnerability? And how are we doing that around young boys so that they can see healthy ways that we attempt to process stress? Because if they're used to us lashing out, if they're used to us being angry, that's the norm for them. They're going to think that that's the normal way to respond to stress or to traumatic situations. I also think that parents just need to have a better understanding of what trauma actually is.
Trauma and brain development.
Okay, this is what my question is. Where do parents get that? Because I hear what you're saying.
I hear it.
You're talking about the culture. If you've got an African auntie coming in, there's nothing wrong with my son, or hey, there's no problem, or you know what I'm saying, I don't want to deal with this, or I don't want to hear that sort of language. What if you've got narcissistic sort of parenting? You know, they're talking about the archetypes of parenting. You know what I'm saying? So if you've got those narcissistic parents, how do you get through to? Or if you have that parent, I like to believe we have the information. If you're willing to, you can find the information out there because you use the information that you have. But I'm thinking about what if you have that difficult parent that don't want to normalize it, don't want to have this conversation because with them, it brings up trauma for themselves that they don't want to deal with. So they displace that onto their children. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think I have those parents. I've had those parents because culture gets in the way, their own trauma gets in the way. And this is where the structural stuff, I think, comes into play. Because you said that in your service, you only have 6 sessions, so you're only allowed to see someone 6 times before you have to discharge them.
Yeah, we just bumped it to 8 now, so that's
8.
good, I guess.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We have a problem in the way that we set up these services in that they're really limited in terms of time. People need time. If you want me to work with this quote-unquote difficult parent, I need time. I need more than the 6 sessions because I need to sit there and understand where they're coming from. I hear about their backgrounds. I'm thinking of a parent I saw the other day, and she's talking about how, she has to do everything for her kids and it's so stressful and everything's really hard and, all of this stuff. And I had to sit and be like, I think maybe you had to look after people when you were younger and that was really hard. Broke down. Yeah, I have to be able to listen to the person and hit hit the actual pain point. That takes time and rapport building and something we call trauma-informed care. So trauma-informed care is essentially just constantly think about how trauma is playing out within a person, but also within systems. I have to have time to do all of those things. So it's not really an easy answer to give you because there's too many factors at play, and I'm going to have to go back to the fact that all these things need to work together in order for it to work. In terms of how I'd work with the individual child, again, I need time. I need to go on walks with them so they trust me. I need to be able to sit down and play Monopoly with them before I can even have a conversation with them. And then build up that rapport to the point where we can start talking about the things that actually need to be dealt with. I've got one kid, if you saw where he was a year ago, you wouldn't believe it. And we're only just getting to the point where we can sit down and talk about the domestic violence that his dad did.
Oh, so you offer open-ended therapy then?
I offer, open-ended. I get into it with management a lot, but I don't care. Because I would rather get into it with management and give this kid a long-term intervention that has long-term effects than have revolving doors, because I've had that as well. Oh, you're back? Yeah, right, cool. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard to answer your question because I think ultimately it takes time and it takes multiple systems working together, and that's not what we have at the moment. In reality, we don't.
Yeah, 100%.
As well as the person themselves.
Don't knock off time-limited counselling. I like to just emphasise. people that do want the here and now, I think sometimes CBT and the NHS.
Oh yeah,
sort of
there can
provide
be
that
some
for you.
efficacy to it. Yeah, 100%.
Oh yeah, CBT absolutely can. Yeah.
But I guess to add on to that response, like something I do relatively quickly is through the discussion around trauma, identify trauma responses that are quite normalized, so they can understand that things like disrupted sleep is a trauma response, anger and aggression and verbal aggression is a trauma response, poor concentration, trauma response. These are trauma responses that people can identify with quite quickly, and it just sparks a conversation about different types of trauma responses that can exist generally. So that's usually kind of the segue in. Like people will come up to me, my sleep is terrible. All right, let's explore that. Like, what's wrong with your sleep? Why? What might be going on? Oh, I'm having nightmares. Let's think about why that might be, and then you start to unpick things that have occurred because they're usually talking about the trauma response to begin with.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah, it's about education as well. Once you get that in with something they relate to. So again, if you're thinking about like a difficult parent or someone whose culture maybe doesn't agree with whatever you're saying, you need to find that in. And then when you find that in, you can be like, well, I actually think that could be related to this. And they're like, oh, really? I didn't know that. Let me tell you a bit more about it. Or I send them away with a video to watch or something, and they'll come back and be like, okay. Or I'll bring in like I have this model brain at work, and I'll take it apart, and it makes the kids, they get really excited about it, and you can start to be like, oh, do you know what that does? And then they start to learn about it, and then I'll be like, well, sometimes when it doesn't work that well, this happens. Does that happen to you? Yeah, it does actually. Start a conversation. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you and a bye-bye out of it because I'm currently doing an essay right now. So, but I just want to say thank you because but I'm in the training mode. So I'm still training. I'm not just there yet, but I just want to say thank you because this conversation is so needed as well. And Black Ron, just for you, Dr. Ron, for you to come into this platform as well and speak on your work that you do, especially with men and especially what adolescents sort of kind of brought up the sort of dialogue and conversations. You need to have these people out in this profession that are examining within society to come in and speak about it because I think it's just very important. I really do thank you for bringing your time here to speak about it as well because I think later on in time I think that these conversations are going to be so impactful that it will go bigger to these sort of spaces where I think people will start realizing, hey, we have to be very mindful here about our children as well, or about the people that we live in society, and maybe redefine community because I think community has been lost some sort of way. And people question what type of community are you talking about? But if we can sort of bring that sort of collectively together, that's really important. And culturally as well, for you as a Black man as well, I think you can see the importance that you do the work with you as well, especially me as well, when I'm with my clients as well, and they're from a certain background that I relate to. I feel very connected and I feel happy by that as well. So I just want to quickly say thank you for your time here.
Big up, man. Can we have a reference in the paper? I think we should have a reference in the paper.
Don't worry. Listen, once I finish this last essay, I'm coming with my papers. Don't get Let me just look in.
But what I will say is, so I did some research recently called The Life of a Top Boy. So Google that. It basically is me doing research with people that get caught up in community violence, and we just had quite honest conversations about trauma and PTSD, how it's manifested in their lives. It's free and accessible on the internet, so just Google The Life of a Top Boy, download it, give it a read.
Right now,
yeah. All right, bro.
Thank you very much. I'll be in touch soon. We'll be working with you.
Yeah, shout me.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for the whole panel as well. Thank you.
Gin and Gist. Thoughts?
Who? What?
Hi, sorry, wait, I'm here.
Yeah.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
No, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. I'm a proud mama of a 12-year-old boy, soon to be 13. But I just think I just want to ask, what kind of language can we use as parents when we're speaking to our children? Because I think at that age, like 12, 13, is at that age where they're aware enough to, it might not be too cool to share things with their parents. And I'm someone that I'm super nosy. I always listen to their conversations when they're on the game or, just pay attention to the things. But I think sometimes if I just overtly go and say oh, what was that about? Or that person said that, there might be that kind of standoffish response. So are there any tips or I don't know, conversation starters that would be appropriate for a child of that age?
I guess I would say that, yeah, you're right in that when you go in and say, oh, but this person said this, they're going to feel confronted, right? And it's understandable. And but it's also understandable why you're listening in. You want to monitor what's happening. So I understand. I guess for me, I don't know what you think, Ron, but when people say things like this, I sort of take a social stories approach. A social stories, essentially, you use it more as a tool for children who have autism to sort of teach them how to sort of navigate the world in different situations. But the reason I use that is that when you use a story about something, it detaches you from it and it can open up conversation. So if you hear the theme of what they're talking about, and when you're in like a low pressure environment, so maybe you guys are doing something together where you feel he feels connected to you, you can kind of bring up the topic and be like, oh, I was wondering about this thing, and like start having a conversation about it. Obviously not to say, yeah, I've been listening to what you're saying, but, if you're noticing a topic that's coming up, I'm just really curious about it. Like, I've just been thinking about this, and actually, like, that's how I would deal with it. How would you deal with it? What do you think about this? That curiosity. I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, I was going to say, you have to remain curious. Don't kind of stop that just because you feel like it might not be received the way that you want it. Like, I think you need to remain curious, because if you don't, unfortunately, we know like what could happen possibly. I think you have to remain curious as a parent. But I also think like there are certain things that are you talking about a son, did you mention?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I think there's certain things that you need to allow for boys in particular. So as a mum, I think it's really important that you affirm ideas that being strong doesn't mean being silent. I think you need to really create spaces where your son can feel like, what, I might not want to talk to mum about this, but if I do, I feel like I can, because that's a very, very different dynamic. So I guess I'll be curious about that. But also as parents, what I've seen is that we celebrate boys when it comes to strength and leadership and confidence. But are we celebrating when they're gentle, when they're empathetic? I don't think we are. So then we're already kind of creating a narrative in the minds of boys that this is celebrated. And if I express this type of emotion, there's a bit of shame, or this might not be celebrated in the same way. So why am I going to express that? And I think for me, I could see that happening with Jamie probably. Like if I bring it back to adolescence, that I think certain traits would have been celebrated very, very differently. And I think as parents, it's so, so important that we have to glorify and celebrate some of those emotions and those qualities that we might not readily link with masculinity.
Can I offer just a suggestion just from that perspective? That I guess I've got a slightly different perspective than everybody else, because I feel like I was, not in terms of what he did, but just in terms of that kind of kid who got indoctrinated to madness. I got that sort of childhood myself, and there's a space where I think you sort of briefly touched on it, just the thing of making it that your kid is aware that there is space for them to be emotional to you. There's space for them to open up to you. Yeah, like it hasn't got to be in that specific moment. Be it while you, when you said just doing something that connects away. I mean, just having that thing of have been having moments where you can connect. At some point, it might be a week down the line, it might be a month down the line, it might be a year down the line. It gives you it's knowing that there's a space there that when it gets crazy, I can go, all right, hey, mum, things are getting a bit crazy. I just want to tell you about X, Y, Z. It's not, it's not about trying to get that patterned up like that day and be like, okay, cool. I need to nip this in the bud today, because you attacking it from. Well, I mean, I say attacking it. That's the thing. It just feels like it could feel like an attack, even in a setting where it's trying to be comfortable. If you're trying to sort of be like, hey, I'm trying to give you the solution today, it can just make you feel. Especially at that age, I feel like I know for me, you sort of have that, that. I guess, almost everyone kind of feels like an op. Like, you know what I mean? Like everyone's trying to stop everyone's trying to stop me from being me. So it's like, if I feel like in any way, in shape or form, that you're trying to do that, I'm just going to close the door. So it's just more about, to me, like, just being like, hey, just showing me the door is open. And when I'm ready to make my way through that, you've left the door open, I can see it's open. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's just like, it's not just something we can just do then and there. It's, it does take time. Like, I know for me, it took, maybe like, probably not, so I was probably like 18, 19 when I finally was able to like fully start having conversations with my mum about some sort of emotional issues I was having. And even then, I ain't gonna sit and say they were perfect. Like, my mum's still an African woman where, I thought some mental health. She's as she gets older, she's better. But back then, it was a bit tough with some of this. But it's a thing of, it took, good 4, 5, 6 years of just sort of me, building to get to a place where I could finally sort of deal with that type of stuff with her and have those type of conversations with her. You get me? So yeah,
I mean, the beginning bit of what you said kind of gets me thinking about this idea of emotional expression without shame. All kids need to be able to express all types of emotion with no shame in the household, because all emotions serve a function, they serve a purpose. And this is where, again, for me, parents have to be curious. If you're angry, let me be curious about your anger. Why are you angry? If I shut it down, then there is no healthy processing of that emotion. So then it means when you are angry in another environment, you don't know how to handle that. You don't know how to process it, because at home, I haven't let you express that.
And give them the language as well, because sometimes they don't have the language, especially when they're really young and they're doing this thing and you're like, what's wrong? You know, you're freaking, oh my God, I can see that you're really upset. You know, and then that makes them say, okay, so when I do this, I'm upset. Okay, cool. And they're not obviously articulating that to you, but it's like giving them the blueprint. I can see you're really angry. It can be really frustrating when this happens, and then have the conversation.
In theory, though, sorry, this is it's in theory. It sounds amazing. It sounds great, and it's a good way to practice. But when you're probably at home with 3-4 children, and one's going off here, and you just want that person to be quiet because you know you've got a younger one looking up to that one. So I just think it's really, really, really tough. Do you know what I mean? And I think if everyone had their way, they would want to be able to say, do you know what? Let me talk to you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I just think it's just, there's so many variables for why.
I don't know if I would agree with that, though. I think it's important about understanding context, but I think some parents don't think they need to speak to their kids. I know some parents that think teachers will sort that out. School will sort that out.
I've got some parents that don't, sorry, that just say I'm not your mate. You shouldn't be talking to me. I'm not your friend.
That's what I want to add to it, is that above all this, parents or some parents want their kids to be vulnerable, but the parents aren't vulnerable themselves. If I've made a mistake, me and my wife made a mistake to my son, or I've gotten annoyed or angry or whatever, immediately I go, sorry, daddy's gotten angry, I'm feeling like this and this today. I'm sorry, that's not your fault, that's my fault. So I feel like, although the sibling things is crazy, you're right. I agree with you, I didn't think about it because I only got one child, so. You're right, 100%. And I'm definitely speaking from a place of, I guess, privilege, for lack of a better word, but only having one, being able to concentrate on just one it must be easier than having 3 or 4.
And that's what goes back to that capacity thing as well. And that's what I feel like on the show we spoke about Nick Cannon quite a few times in the past, right? About knocking out all these kids and all the resources. The reality is, when you keep wanting to knock out all these kids, is that you're now limiting your capacity for this other child. That's the absolute reality. So have conversations about the realities of having children. Don't just do it because you want to put them in cute outfits. It's not a joke thing. It's not a joke thing. Be very realistic.
And I know parents that for that reason say I'm only having one kid.
Okay.
I know parents that have literally said that to me, that because of that reason, I don't know if I could do this with more. Invest this time and energy,
that's what it
resource
is.
and capacity.
It's investment.
If I had other kids,
but it shows how many people do not discuss it. They do not discuss how we're having children. Our traumas, your traumas, how you were raised. No one did. It's not a joke thing.
And just the difference in generation and how people are raised. Because I feel like even from a Nigerian background, I feel like the older generation, they feel like they've got the blueprint of how to raise children. So it's like they don't think that they need to update their software. It's like, during my day, this is how we did things, and this is how you're gonna do it in your day. But it's like things are so different now. The things that the kids are worrying about are different. Like back in your day, social media was not a thing. This is their biggest issue now. This is their biggest distraction. They just don't understand the difference in generations. I think that plays a part as well.
100%.
Chrissy?
Can I? Yes. Sorry, just to rewind back to Dr. Ron's point about not celebrating or championing when they do emote the emotion, when boys emote the emotion. I just wanted to actually stay on that point because with my son, he's going to be 9. He's very actually emotive, very caring, all that kind of stuff. My actual worry is when he now reaches the age to go to secondary school and he starts mixing with other boys, how do I combat that? Because at this moment in time, he's a great child, and long may he continue to be a great child.
Amen.
And he's very in tune, very aware, like he's very like wonderful. Sometimes I don't understand how I birthed him, but that's another story.
Big you up.
But when he now goes into secondary school now, my biggest worry is how he now combats that, because again with secondary school now, it's a whole different ballgame from when I was in secondary school.
Facts.
So
I mean,
my
again,
thing is,
I don't know if this is a
there's
question
such a
for
hive
me or...
mentality.
I've got similar issues, exactly same issues, Christy. Exactly same issue as you, Christy. And I feel like the only thing that makes me feel better is our kids are gonna have the emotional intelligence to regulate their feelings when they're in secondary school. Obviously, they're gonna have to adapt somewhat. This is only me. This is this is just what I think is gonna happen. Is they're gonna be able to adapt and regulate their emotions, so they're not taking it out on other kids. They're not taking it out on their teachers. Not taking it out on their parents. Not taking it out on anyone else. They're gonna be able to regulate and be healthier for that. I feel like I'm not gonna speak for myself. I'm not gonna speak for you. But I don't, because my kid is amazing. He's so empathetic. He's lovely. I don't want that to then be a weak point for him. So I'm kind of teaching him about the pros and cons of humans. Some lie, some don't have the best interest at heart. And just to have him be wary. But in the same breath, he's now doing self-defense. So now everything's being covered. But I get the problem that Christy has, because secondary school
the social demand goes up. Like, do you know what I mean? When you're younger, do you want to be my friend? Yeah, okay, sure. And then that's it. They're friends. There's so many more dynamics at play when you're at secondary school. So I understand the concern, but I guess my thoughts are that what you're saying is correct, in that you've already given them the base skills to be able to navigate emotions and communicate, but also then again goes back to curiosity. When he comes home and he's trying to navigate these, like, oh, like this person does this, you can tell them about the pros and cons of humans, but also boundaries. Like, okay, you can be caring but also have boundaries. Your empathy and your boundaries need to go together, and then you can teach them how to navigate things a little bit better, communicate it, but then also as well, what are their values as humans themselves, and show them how to live in accordance to their values. So just because this person over here is doing this, don't mean that runs here, right? You can interact with this person in a way, that's fine because you have to, but you can still be true to who you are and how you want to navigate the world. That's what's coming to my mind.
I was going to say
100% give him that speech all the time.
I was going to say, with the pros and cons about humans, I think go even more specific. Talk about men. Talk about that there are, and again, think about how you say this, but ultimately you need to talk to them about the fact that in society there are very particular ideas about what it means or feels like to be a man, which aren't helpful. So when we think about masculinity, we're thinking about strength, dominance, emotional suppression. Like, these are usually the traits that we are relating to masculinity, but that's not helpful. But also there are other side of being a man, and that's where you might introduce the gentleness, the empathy, the creativity, the playfulness. And at school you might find that kids are navigating this side of things when even they might want to navigate the other side but feel like they can't. And sometimes that's just for a conversation.
For sure.
I'm so sorry, I gotta go. If I'm gonna wake up and come back here, I gotta go. But thank you guys. Dr. Ron, you gotta come on TDA. You have to come on TDA. Really good. Yeah, see you guys later.
All right, question.
Hi. Can I ask a quick question? Sorry, Brent.
Sure.
Just a quick one. Kind of piggyback, or whatever the saying goes, off of the thing that I mentioned earlier. Say, for example, you're listening to these conversations and you hear something that maybe sounds a bit inappropriate, but you've been hearing it. What would be the best way to go about that? Telling the school, maybe if you have a relationship with the parents, speaking to that child's parents, going to the police, using community-based organizations like I want to say Dr. Don? Am I making up? Ron, sorry. Or you like reaching out to like organizations that you may work with. What would be the best approach to take?
Sure, it depends on.
In my head, it's about like proportionality, isn't it? So in my head, I'm thinking risk assessment, like, how urgent is the risk, how serious is it, and then obviously that could guide.
And obviously, as clinical psychologists, we're like bound by ethics. Like, we'd have to think about confidentiality and actually, based on what Amani said, like, how do we, based on what has been said and the context around it, acknowledging that confidentiality might need to be breached. But for me, like, it largely depends on what's being said. So like in my current role, like I'm a DSO, a designated safeguarded officer.
Okay.
So I have to take this stuff very, very seriously. But it's so interesting that when you're in these kind of positions, how the slightest of things you have to think about. So like some youth workers that are kind of part of an organisation I work with, were running a workshop in schools, and the kids disclosed something that one of the teachers said, and actually it was really like I think in passing comment they were talking about our teachers that they think are cool, and the teacher used an inappropriate example in his science lesson, and actually, you know, like when teachers are almost wanting to be a bit cool in front of their students.
Oh, doing too much.
For me, it's a bit of it's not a red flag, but it's a point of curiosity, because that's how boundaries get broken. And I've seen that play out. So I have to almost be thinking about, okay, the context around why that might have been done from a safeguarding perspective. And that isn't to say that he was doing anything, but I have to have that thought in the back of my mind as a possibility. That then meant that I had to have a conversation with the school, unfortunately. And it gets quite tricky.
But I guess she's asking from a parent then. So we've just been asking about, we answered in like a professional head. Like as a parent, I guess. I guess in my head, again, it goes back to like how serious the thing is. And again, about having a conversation with the child, regardless of what you end up doing. Because again, in the professional world, if I have to breach confidentiality, I'm having a conversation with the child and telling them they might be upset. And I have to be like, I understand you're upset about this, but this is something I have to do because I'm an adult that needs to keep you safe. So if you are finding that your child is saying something concerning, you know, they might be upset that you listened in. I understand that you're upset, that I've listened in, but I've heard this and this is concerning for me because of this. So then this is where like a bit more firmness comes in, because again, we spoke about curiosity, it all sounds really soft. Sometimes you do need to be a bit more firm. So if you're really concerned about something, yeah, you need to have a conversation with the child and recognize, they might be upset, they might be angry. You need to contain those emotions for them, but still have the conversation and be like, and because of this, and this is why I'm concerned, I might need to go speak to that person's parent now. I mean, and you tell me why you would be concerned about me doing that. Because they'll have all these things about, then this person will find out and then this person. Okay, cool, let's think about how we're gonna navigate that. I'm still doing it, but you're having a contribution into how this is gonna happen. If you don't wanna have a contribution, then here we go, but it's still happening because the level of concern.
All right, couple of questions about toxic masculinity and. Hold on, I'm going to mute this guy again. I don't know what is wrong with that guy. Toxic masculinity and society.
Question.
Hold on, sorry, I gotta go. Sorry, I'm all the way in South. It's Pete. But yeah, it's been a pleasure.
You should go where?
I gotta go South, innit?
Oh yeah, I forgot for a second where we were.
I love you lot.
Yeah, nice meeting you, bro.
Bye, take care.
Eid Mubarak.
Yeah, likewise.
Dr. Ron.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, man. Could you elaborate on when you said strength is a useful masculine trait?
No, so I guess I was very much talking about societal norms around masculinity. So I guess with the boys that I work with, I'm often seeing an internal conflict around this idea of masculinity, because actually a lot of boys are wrestling with what they think it means to be a man, and this thinking part I think is around really strong narratives about strength, as I mentioned, dominance, not showing emotion, so this emotional expression, while still navigating the everyday realities that they are kids with complex needs. And when I say complex needs, I mean that as human beings, we're all complex. We all have complex needs. So this kind of pressure to perform toughness, I kind of view that as a survival strategy, like a trauma response, ultimately.
So you're saying toughness and strength to the point of detriment to themselves
because,
and others.
Well, of course, I'm not saying that strength is a bad thing. I'm not trying to say strength is a bad thing. But I guess I guess it's how strength is being viewed. If it's, I have to be strong in order to be a man, that's a very different dynamic.
I think because of like ease of language, we'll say these things, but just so you know, most of the time when I'm referring to this stuff, I mean to the extent to which is a detriment. Please never misconstrue what I'm saying.
Fair enough.
Good question, though. Yeah.
All right, cool. First question. How does toxic masculinity manifest in today's adolescent boys, and what are its effects on their emotional well-being?
I feel like I've answered that, but I'll try to summarize it again, but
you don't have to answer.
No, I
Dr.
think it's an
Amani can
interesting
answer.
question.
Oh, I'm
yeah.
eating, sorry.
Should I answer it?
I'm chewing, yeah.
All right, yeah. I guess I've spoken about some of the values, the societal kind of ideas and beliefs about what it means to be a man and where that comes from. So, like, I've seen loads of people talk about, I don't know, like Andrew Tate. And I find that, for me, that rhetoric really interesting because we can't locate this issue in one man. Society has very, very strong ideas about what it means to be a man. And that trickles down to the individual. It trickles down to parents and how they parent their kids and how they parent their boys and their sons. So for me personally, I think society at large, we need to really explore why is there this narrative, this particular narrative around I need to be strong. With being strong, I can't show weakness. I can't show emotion. There are really strong narratives and stories that have, I guess, have come over time because our parents have instilled this in us. And actually, we're still instilling these narratives and stories within our own sons and boys. And I do query, like, when is this going to stop? Because how do we, it's kind of what I mentioned before, like, how do we affirm to boys that being strong doesn't mean being silent, that I can be gentle and empathetic as well as strong and dominant and be a leader? But I don't think that's happening.
I think it's impossible to change that now. It's in religion,
It's just
it's
sad.
in culture, it's in your tribe, it's in your area, it's in the media. I think it's impossible
the
now
culture
to
thing
do that.
is fascinating to me because I mentioned before that I work with boys that I guess are gang affiliated, if we want to call it that. So they already have this ideal of what it means to be a top boy. Like all of these I have to be strong. I have to not let people chat shit to me. I have to be in a position where nobody can harm me. I have to be physically strong all the time, mentally strong all the time. I can't be seen as vulnerable because if I am vulnerable, I could die. So there are some realities to this dominance, and this dominance for some people actually provides a function where, in some cases, it means they are alive.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but it's also paradoxical in some cases as well. I'm sorry to cut whoever that was. Paradoxical because also in doing that, you can face certain life experiences that mean you could die. And I'm talking about health, right? So we know, we see the conversation all the time about, men and, getting their prostate checked or going to the GP in general. What it takes for their wives to be on them before they go and get something checked out. Because I can't, I have to keep going. Again, so that's an example of how that strength is now to your detriment. You can be strong, but still be willing to say, okay, cool, I need to go and get my prostate checked. You know what I mean? And this is why we constantly have conversations about the use of the word pause all the time, because, it filters into all of these things. It might, at times feel innocent, but, it can trickle into these things. And I think it speaks to the detriment. When you lose your job for whatever reason, because the economic status of the world is so in flux, are you now going to be in like a deep depression? I'm not saying it's not upsetting and stressful, it is, but is your sense of masculinity going to play into that and amplify that pain to the point where maybe we're thinking about whether you're going to have to, be on suicide watch? These are really detrimental things, and I think it's hard when the conversation on social media feels like, it's more to do with how things are operating within relationships, and I think that is an important conversation. But I think what happens is that we lose actually the wider complexity of what's happening. And when we're talking about it, we're not talking about, it's bad. We're not saying it's bad to be strong. We're saying to the point of your detriment to yourself and others, your lives at worst, and your human expression at best. And that's where the issue comes in, I think.
The only way I think that can be combated is if we start making men and boys feel useful. I think they don't feel useful. Not all, but I think it's like, what is your use? And when you're on social media today, it's almost like he has to be able to provide this. It's always money, provide.
Resource.
But what is, you've got to feel useful. Everyone has to feel useful. And I think women oftentimes feel a little bit more useful. Do you know what I mean? But men, I think that's a big worry. Because if you feel useful,
I think if the pendulum swung, way too far to one end, where it's like you can be soft, whereas it's like you can't be masculine, you can't be strong. In our plight to say you can't be both, we've given them and introduced only that side. So like you can't, you could cry, you could do this, you could do that. But you can also be a strong girl. You can also show your strength and your physical masculinity. I think one of the main things is we're not showing good role models, enough role models physically there. Back in the days, you'd be able to go to church. There'll be single parents that would have a man that kind of puts his arm around the young boy and raises him. We've lost the community, and every male in this community, go back to a school, volunteer. Schools do not care. From what I've seen, they care about their bottom line, which is the grades in maths and English. If you can perform and say you're going to get a good grade for them in maths and English, they'll bring you in. They'll bring other people in to train them about random things. But if you can do it for free, just go in once a week, once a month. The way children lap and relish the whole idea of like a person they can emulate. If someone from the outside world comes in, they love them. And they really would look up to them. But yes, peers have an impact, there's a peer influence at a certain age, but they also do look at outsiders as well. If you came in to the school once a month, once a week, just to talk to the person, just to talk to one of those kids, you could save a life. You can see what other teachers don't see. I remember one time I saw these boys, I worked in Lewisham, the worst school in Lewisham, in the worst area in Lewisham as well. You know Lewisham as bad as it is.
Yeah.
And they had a fight based on one of the year 10s. The year 10s had a fight with the year 11s because the year 10s olders, like the older people, their older little gang affiliates, were roughing up the year 11 outside of school. And in the morning, it was like, yep, it's on. Meanwhile, they sees that at that moment. But the way in which they switched, the nice kids I taught switched. And you think, how can you see if someone's a killer? Sometimes it's a switch and they don't realize the ramifications of if I stab you, you will die. And dying means that you'll never live again. I don't think some of them compute that. If that rage, they don't understand rage. And certain times you can't. I'm like, I used to teach you one day for the sake of that. Yesterday, if you had a knife this morning, you would have killed someone. It would have been a completely different situation. But the big tough white teacher guy that's there can't see those things. So I'm on the outside looking in and thinking tomorrow, or I'll do that anyway, but I've got to make sure I'm touching on your emotions. And I'll speak to you about that. You switch your zero to one real quick. You make it as a joke and you talk to them. You instill something as a teacher. I don't have time for, but I make the time because I love it. As Dr. Malik said, because you're passionate about it. If you're not in those spaces, go into those spaces. Let's help the parents because, as you guys said, some parents don't have the skills and the capacity. And people assume that there is no manual for parenting, but you can go on TikTok and look at ingredients for recipes for random recipes for different cuisines that you never know. You can learn tuition on makeup, but we don't think that we can equally learn with parenting, and you can. So you can teach those people, but those people are not well equipped. The mums that I used to speak to during parents' evening, first of all, they don't know what's going on in schools because schools don't really equip them to like, what the grades and all those things mean. So they think they're taking it to school and the school's doing the job. Meanwhile, the school isn't. The school's expecting the parent to also do some. So there's a disconnect there. But where you can go in, go in. If you are next to school, go back to your local schools, go back to Peckham, Lewisham. I just want to volunteer, and it will make such a big difference. Your presence alone will teach the kids. Oh, right, okay. So it's not just. If I used to ask the kids all the time, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" It was either football or a rapper. Football or a rapper. I was like, even today, I'd ask the kids, "What's the neighbouring borough to Lewisham?" They didn't know it. Where have you been outside of Lewisham? They didn't know it. So all these things, I'm meant to be teaching maths, and that's my KPI. You get a good maths grade, but there's so many other things that we're missing. And kids that are 16 that are killers go to school. They get taught maths, get taught English. They see 10 teachers and they go out and kill. And all the teachers missed it? Come on.
Dr. Ron, why
Dr. Ron's getting it today, man. Jeez.
Yo, you get used to it. It's weird at first, you get used to it.
why are figures like Andrew Tate like appealing to young boys? Like, what does this indicate about their needs or insecurities? I know Gigi just mentioned the lack of usefulness. They feel useless, right? What makes him and his ideologies so appealing? And not just Andrew Tate. Obviously, he was mentioned in the series.
For me, these guys are scapegoats. I think they're scapegoats to a system and society that thinks the same things. I think, and I guess we've briefly already discussed this, but I think for across generations, men have always been this. They've always been dominant. They've always been. I'm gonna say a quote. So I used to work in a prison, a Cat A prison, so like with murderers ultimately, and I had a supervisor that said something to me that only popped into my head after I'd watched Adolescence. And she said, men are afraid that women will laugh at them, and women are afraid that men will kill them. And it's really heavy when you think about it. And I guess in this case, in Jamie's case, it was very real. But I'm not saying to necessarily see that at face value. I want you to understand the sentiment and the nuance behind it. I think for men, we have a big issue with humiliation generally because of pride and ego. And on social media, that's just intensified because it's public humiliation. And in order to respond to public humiliation, we have to do something of a public nature that's going to feel warranted and proportionate and necessary in our minds that we think matches that. And then I think for a lot of girls and women, that they're often in spaces where they're curious about what could happen in the presence of men. And I'm not necessarily saying that men are going to kill them, but there are situations where I speak to a lot of my female friends where they're like, I don't know what could have happened here, because actually I felt quite helpless or powerless in situations. So I think in society anyway, we look at each other gender-wise very, very differently. And I think society plays on that. And we have systems that play on that, which is why I guess even in the psychology field, there are hierarchies. As men, we reach to the top of the profession quicker than women do. There's a reason for that. There are so many ideas that exist in society generally, and no system can escape that. Yeah.
Society's built on that.
Built on it.
But I guess
completely.
But also part of the question was again, what do you think it gives them?
For kids?
Yeah, what do you think it gives them in terms of their identity development?
Yeah,
What
but I
do you
think
it gives them?
it really fuels their identity, of course.
Yeah,
I think
it's
for a lot
identity
of boys anyway, as I mentioned before, there is a conflict. Yeah. They don't know who they should be. They don't know how they should be. So they are seeing figures like Andrew Tate. And I guess this is the issue with figures like Andrew Tate, where they're seeing the cars, the money, this is what it means to be a man. I can have dogs, I can have women doing all of these things. And society plays on that because we watch TV shows that validate it. We watch movies that validate that narrative. So then as a child that is developing and with that kind of adolescence brain, they're thinking to themselves, this is what it means to be a man. I need to strive towards these things in order to be a man. So I get a bit frustrated when we locate it in individuals like Andrew Tate, and I'm like, no, it's bigger than this. Much bigger than this.
I think we need to see him as like the face of a wider ideology 100%. That is problematic. And but I guess because of, again, language and like, you know, quick heuristics, we're going to use his name. Yeah. And then people might think, oh, you're locating in one person. No, I'm saying he's the face of an ideology that's problematic. Going into your thing around it being a part of their identity development as teenagers, I think we also need to be very cognizant and think about where they're at that age. And again, talk about their brain development. Be really conscious about what's happening biologically for them as well. Psychologically, they're looking for identity. We all kind of categorize ourselves, and the way we categorize ourselves actually changes based on place and time as well. But they're going to try and categorize themselves as a man, right? And they're going to seek that out. Put them on social media, a place that is like dopamine like laden, right? Dopamine hit. A teenage brain is that they love a bit of dopamine. They love it. Their brain is literally wired for it. The sort of like activity in like the amygdala and that kind of place, which is like the center of the brain, which is the emotional part of the brain, is high, right? And their logical part of their brain is not really developed like that. So try and get them to stop scrolling and taking in all this in. Really, really hard from like a biological, neurological point of view, but also whether that's psychologically, where they're trying to seek information to tell them, how do I navigate the world? Because this is the first time in their lives that they're pretty much independent from their parents. Remember, you're a baby, you think you are your parent when you're a baby, you literally think you are your parent. Then you start to learn that you're not your parent. That's where they start saying no, they try and have autonomy because they're like, oh, I'm not you. And then you're a teenager and you're like, oh wait, I'm actually someone outside as well. They're trying to figure that out. They want to seek it. Their brain is developed for it as well. Psychologically, they're developed for it as well. But also as well, it's terrifying for them and they need someone to help them through that process. So we need to understand. So, you know, my takeaway as well is like we actually have to understand psychological processes and brain development, because this plays a part in what's happening. And society, what we know from, you know, research about brain development and mental health, etc., is that society plays a huge role in how that goes. So we need to find a way to navigate it, because otherwise you're leaving them to the dogs. You know, if you leave your child out there on social media whilst they're in this really prime age where they're seeking all this stuff out, if you do it unsupervised, a lot can happen. Awful stuff can happen. Most extreme things can happen.
It's weird because I don't feel as though, I feel like Andrew Tate is, and the likes of him is for us, as for the adults. I feel like the young people are not actually looking at Andrew Tate. I think there's something else going on that they're seeing, because how many kids are really even sitting and understanding what he's saying? I'm not sure they are, the young ones. What I think is those people who are kind of shifting into that space or that ideology, I think they are lonely. I think they're seeking interaction. And because they're quite, you know, you've got kids who are a bit awkward, a bit quiet, and maybe they're not showing the characteristics of whatever they think a man might be, or tough kind of boy might be. So then they're kind of seeking interaction. So when you're seeking interaction, I think you go and join something online because you can hide. And you've got people that are talking like you, similar to you. So I think some of them are going there not because of incels and all that stuff. I think it's really because they're looking for interaction. And because so many people are in there and there's a lack of maybe feeling confident, maybe there's sexlessness for some people, and they're thinking, well, no one checks for me, so but this group does. And I think that's how a lot of people enter. I don't even think they all find Andrew Tate or them. Like, I think they enter because they're lonely. That's isolation,
though, isn't it? It's the validation, and it feels good, and that's the entry point. They're not going to go straight into like agreeing with the sentiment, like, oh, smack your wife. Like, that's not going to be the first thing. It's going to be too confronting. But if they go in and they feel validated and accepted, and then the extreme, over time it starts to, and then they're like, oh wait, this person he likes me. Actually, it's essentially a form of grooming.
This is the angle I was about to. I was going to address an angle. I don't know if you want to do the question first, and then I'll say my point.
Fernand says,
the question on the screen.
Could you ask the fine doctors if anything we do as adults is confusing the messaging we give to the youth, media we consume, how we communicate even with other adults, etc.?
I guess when we don't practice what we preach. You know, like, oh, you shouldn't be on your phone, but these times, you know how many people I see pushing the pushchair and scrolling? Do you know what I mean? We're also addicted. And I guess we do this thing where we're like, oh, just do what I say, not, what I do. No, we actually need to model it. I think that's the confusing thing, when we're not actually modeling things, like modeling emotional regulation. No, like, you know, they start screaming, and you tell them to stop screaming, you shouldn't do that, but you scream every time you're angry. So I think that's the confusing thing, you know. And then also as well, I guess we need to have room for nuancing and critical thinking in our conversations, and again, at an age-appropriate level, as they navigate these things. Because yes, they're going to have access to media, and yes, they're going to, you know, even we did back in the day, were we not putting our Walkmans together, infrareds, right? To be sending over Crazy Frog and all sorts of things, and worse things, porn even, like people were doing that. So it's just going to get more sophisticated. Just because the medium in which it happens is different, it doesn't mean we can't relate to the experience. So we need to reflect on what it was like for us, and be able to start to help them navigate those things and have communication with them and model it as well.
I think accountability is another one.
100.
Because parents will read. I listen to my niece and nephews, and they feel very comfortable talking to me because I've made sure, like, the things I know they want to say, they probably wouldn't be able to go to their parents for everything. So I've tried to build a relationship where we can talk. But I noticed that sometimes your parent can tell you off and tell you about something, pull you up on something, but there's no, do you know what? My bad. Then that means the kids are not going to learn how to be accountable. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's really, really important. Like, if you're doing this, but you want them to own up to this and up to that, but then you yourself, you're not going to take any accountability for some of the things you're doing.
Which is even harder, because I guess at that age, when we think about brain development, they're not thinking about accountability and taking ownership of their behaviours. So if they're not seeing that at home anyway.
Then how do
it's
they?
just- yeah.
At least if you see it, and even if you don't quite have the capacity to understand, you see it.
You see it, 100%.
So you recognize it. Sometimes most things is
yeah.
it's a pattern more time, innit? We're seeing something, we don't quite understand it, but it's a pattern. It's a behavior, so we end up copying it. So,
Eddie, you were going to say something before the question.
Oh yeah, so now I was just gonna tackle the whole using Andrew Tate as like the face of it for the young ones. I'm like you can saying, I don't actually think he's the face for the young ones. He's a face, like they know of him, but he's not the face to them. Like to them, it's the streamer kids who are out here, who are of a similar sort of ideology, but it's more catered directly to them in terms of obviously the video game streamers and the music streamers, whatever it may be. Like for them, that's what the precipice of cool is for them at 13 years old, 14 years old, 15 years old. Yeah, same way. Like I look at it like when I was at that same sort of age, I wasn't looking at freaking I'm trying to think of, I'm not looking at the 50-year-old mafioso boss man as like oh yeah, that's what I want to be. No, it's the 20-year-old who's pushing the Benz around my block,
facts.
who's from my block doing that. That's who I'm looking at.
Facts.
So yeah, I know who that guy is. I know who that guy is, and that's cool. But he's not. He's just he's just a guy. That's the guy to me. That's who I'm looking at. That's who I'm talking. That's who I want to interact with. That's the one I want get his approval and whatnot. That's the one I want to be like. So it's a thing of I think again some parents will get too distracted by Andrew Tates because they're so caught up in that's the face that I've been told is that's the man who's the face I've been told. So you get caught up looking at that guy and not seeing all these other brothers who are sort of I guess his children in a sense that are
pushing the
also
same
pushing the same
mentality
they're still pushing the same thing.
It's
And
easier
they're doing
to look at
they're doing even more
Andrew
because
Tate
they're getting a more direct
100%.
line of contact with your kid. In the chat rooms, on the streaming sites, wherever it may be, they're getting a more direct line. Same way, like I said, my mum's not, my mum will be looking for the guy that is on the news all the time to be worried about in terms of who I was around. She's not looking at the boy who I've seen around the corner. I've seen all my life, just around the corner. He's not signed to me. Meanwhile, not realizing that that's the guy I'm idolizing the most, and that's the one I'm trying to talk to the most. And they're obviously, preying off that in themselves, they're at the end of the day, everything's about monetizing. Like in the streets is about monetizing, when in streaming it's about monetizing. It's about building a community to make me money, and that's all these lot are. And the kids don't know that. The kids don't. They're sort of not tricked. I guess tricked in a sense. I don't know how you put it, but they believe that this is a real family. This is a real community. This is a real ideology that we all are one, what I mean? Like we are, we're all the same tribe, we all still live in the same life and that. So like we'll get easily caught up. We'll get so easily caught up and give them our loyalty, give them our money, give them whatever it may be, and then get sort of, and then also because of that age, like you said, because of our, where our brains are developing, they can then take advantage of that because we don't have the critical thinking to actually realize all this stuff that I'm saying right now. Like I wasn't sitting there thinking about like me running around with these brothers is going to lead to X, Y, Z. Like I'm just thinking about me running around with these brothers is going to lead to me being as cool as X, Y, Z. Like, I wanted to be just like them.
Because you've seen what comes with being cool.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, that's what I wanted. I wanted that. So same way. Jamie wants the girls in terms of he wants to be a ladies man. He wants to be a ladies man. He wants to be a gallus, whatever you want to call it, whatever. He wants to be that, and he's doing what he's being told and is learning from these people. That's what I'm meant to do, and this is how I'm meant to do it. And that's his only focus. His only focus is he's got the blinkers on, and not realizing, hey, the way I'm thinking could potentially be negatively impacting in me in the long run. Like you're not thinking about that. So
if he didn't get caught, do you think he would be still on that? I'm the man.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think
and also he didn't get caught.
That's the thing. It's the same way.
No, but like I don't know if like his mindset would even have gone to that, because I don't think when I say he's the man, not in regards to killing Katie, but more so about the fact that like, what am I trying to say here?
I think he's still. While you think of that, I was going to say, I still think so. The same way, again, I can think of myself in terms of just the street stuff. I can go, like, for as long as I wasn't getting in any trouble, it was like it's hard to fully grasp the negative of what I'm doing because I'm not getting in trouble for it. So it's like I can sort of compartmentalize and not truly think about it as a bad thing that I'm doing. So that I might be, whatever, but it's a thing of because because the police ain't kicking down my door, I can sort of push it as like, oh yeah, but I'm just, I'm making money. Like again, like I said, it's like my primary focus is still my primary focus. I don't have to worry about the other stuff because it's not come my way yet. So you know what I mean? Until for me, until certain things were happening around me, until I was losing certain people around me, until certain people were getting locked up, dying, whatever it was, like they weren't making me real. That's the stuff that was making me realize, oh, raw, like this is real. Like people are dying over this stuff that really and truly I'm just doing because I want to be cool. Like I'm not doing it because I want to die. Like I don't want none of these problems. I just want to be cool. Like I just want to, you know what I mean? I just want to make bread. Like I just want to be cool and make bread. So it's like, you don't get that, you know what I mean? Like if you don't have these things that are sort of shocking you into like realizing just how messed up your sort of ideologies are, like you will just end up keep going like, cool. Because like, he might have, and to be fair, he could have very easily still, depending on his moral compass, he might have still found a way to, it might have got to him eventually, but you don't know. You never know. Like, he might be a sociopath where he's able to just completely disassociate from that stuff and never be able to, and it never impact him.
I think Jamie might have been a bit tapped.
Yeah, so that's the thing, yeah.
No, honestly.
No,
he was tapped. The way that he acknowledged it and then would be like, no, I'm sorry, I never said that. I think something was wrong. I think to some degree he followed his dad. There was a pattern, there was a mirroring where his dad would be like, I'm sorry, love. Do you know what I mean? He would do something, then be sorry. So Jamie done that too. But outside of that, I think he was a bit tapped.
What do you mean by tapped?
He was not there. Something wasn't quite.
No, to stab someone that way how many times? Multiple times because she rejected you. You can't sit there and say that that's a natural, rational response. So yeah, of course he's definitely got some.
I don't know though.
Even just in the action though, in the way that he went about talking, and he seemed there. We knew he was a good student, so that he was there. He was sensible. He was smart enough, but he was a bit. He had the same avoidance thing that his dad had.
When you say, you mean as in like he could lean into having a diagnosis? Is that what you
Possibly.
mean? Oh, is that what you mean?
But what I will say about that kind of tapped nature is, I work with a lot of young boys where we think about this idea of perpetrator trauma, and actually the whole act of perpetrating a violent act could in itself kind of create some psychological injury or scarring. So he might not have been tapped before. He might have been tapped because he killed her.
Possibly.
So like it could have just been like prior to kind of the act of actually killing her, he was doing all of these weird misogynistic like mirroring stuff. But then until he actually killed her, maybe his mind snapped.
And then he just been strip searched.
I was with I mentioned before 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds last week. And I was just seeing how innocent and young they look. And I was visualizing Jamie thinking, how can a youth this young be on that?
This is the thing. So sometimes as well, I'll get a referral or they'll be telling me about a kid, or the mum call me, he's terrifying. He's all that walks in a little 7-year-old and he's gorgeous, and I'm like, because I do get a picture in my head. I do. It's human. It happens. Where was I going with that? But I guess it's to say that all of these difficult, like emotional difficulties, can happen outside of them ended up having a diagnosis. Do you know what I mean? But I understand what you're saying. It's complex. It's complex.
All right, so to wrap this up, right?
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Like,
as
parents,
I can feel the tiredness.
As parents, I don't know, elder siblings, like how do we spot the signs and stuff, and how do we then react so that this kind of stuff doesn't happen?
Signs of what?
Yeah, I was gonna say signs of what?
Signs that they are careering down a path that might lead to hair.
And when we're saying here, like murder?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, incel them,
by
right?
what though? Incel, are we talking about
100%.
this sort of...
100%.
For me, if your son, and we're going to say son because incel, if your child, I think you need to know if your child's lonely. If your child is someone who can talk to other people, because a lot of these kids can't talk to people. They're just all social. Like I've got my nephew to talk to a cousin or friend. Yeah, that's it. Did you know, how are you? Nothing. Yeah. That's it. So if you're lonely, if your child is lonely, you recognize your child is lonely, That's for me an entry point, because if you're lonely and you can't interact with your friends at school and you don't talk to friends outside of school and it's just you, your next best thing is online, and then you've got access to everyone. That's a problem, I think. I think it's a massive
there's
problem,
also
because when
the
you're isolated like that and you're so easily impressionable, like I think that's a big problem.
We saw
I've seen
in the
friendly
first
kids.
episode, I don't know, I can't remember names, but Ashley's son. He was being bullied. He didn't even want to go to school. Is that the early stages of possible inceldom?
Of what?
Inceldom. I've made an
Coin that one. Coin that.
I wouldn't say, because we don't know what his setting was, how he was amongst other people. And that time when he got into the car with his dad, obviously we looked at him maybe thought he was a bit awkward and moist, and he was like, yeah. Later on he started going,
he had
I was like,
personality.
raw. Do you remember that bit? He just started getting, I was like, raw, it's your man there. So sometimes it depends on your crowd and who you're around. And I think if you're being bullied or picked on in front of everybody, it's easier to retreat. It's much more easier to retreat. So I think I wouldn't say that would be a sign. Personally, I wouldn't say that's a sign. It's a problem, but
Also,
I wouldn't say it's a sign.
Today, this day and age is Andrew Tate. 3 years ago was radicalization with Islam. That was a big thing for teachers and making sure that kids weren't right. So what the lady just said, I've seen a kid that was so impressionable, but the bubbliest kid. But the things he would believe anything with radicalization, and I thought he was the best candidate for that because he's so impressionable. So there can be different signs. But I think the best thing to do is catch them young. I think I saw research if you catch them around 9, be with them, spend time with them. Don't let them go into their room. Literally, let the room be the bedroom to sleep. That's the only time they're going into that room. And the devil makes work for idle hands. Put them in certain things. Let them be busy in the communities you want them to be in. Because as they say, if your peers are your biggest influence, let them have the right peers. Take them to sports. Take them to somewhere where the leader's going to watch them and look out for them and things like that. So there are times we can save them, but after a while you can miss the signs because, as you said as well, kids can hide things. It could be the friendliest of kids. He was cute, and that's why they purposely picked a cute-looking boy. Because if you picked another one who's more masculine and more mature, you think, he makes sense. But the cute one who wasn't checking for girls, or you'd assume he wasn't checking for girls, he's always in his room. You could miss the spot, so it's not as clear cut as that. Especially when you work in schools, you realize that it's a different. Any kid can get it, and even Asher D's kid, Ashley Waters' kid, he knew so much about the whole incel and red pill. He was educating his dad, so he had the same information, but he soaked it up differently.
Yeah, it did something
So
different.
it's not about what you're consuming as well, it's about the foundation of your mind as well. But you can catch them young by literally letting your kids be your handbag. Everywhere you want to go. Like today, I couldn't come because my kid is here and I couldn't get childcare, if that makes sense. So there's certain sacrifices you have to make. Like Dr. Amani was saying, certain things you can't watch. I want to watch Housewives all the time at a certain time, but I have to watch it in the evening. Because one time she saw it, it's like, is that acting? And I said, it's not acting. But wait, if it's not acting, these people are really fighting in real life. And you're watching it. So you model, as you're saying, you model that behavior. So certain things I don't want. I'm putting the book in my hand because I wanted to see that we're reading a book. I'm not reading with Kindle intentionally because I'm always on my phone anyway. So I have to put it down. So it's the sacrifice. It's not just about money. It's you deny yourself certain things because you know kids model what they see more than what they're told.
Yeah, I think for me the themes are like curiosity and it being the village that it takes to raise a child. And when I say the curiosity, because again, it feeds into what you're saying, like be with your child, be interested in your child. And I mean all aspects of that. And some of those aspects are going to be uncomfortable for us because it 100%. Includes their sexuality, actually. It includes their gender at some, for some children. It includes things like autism. Us understanding neurodevelopmental difficulties is important. Us understanding, sexuality is important. Having those conversations and being curious and interested in our children and not deflecting from it because it's uncomfortable or, that's not what we do here. Like, just be interested and literally build a safe space for them to come to so they feel accepted by you, they feel validated by you, and help them have these conversations and start to navigate the world in a different way. You have to be engaged. You have to be there with them.
And then everybody else has to do their job, because as
And
we said,
everyone
it's
has to.
collective.
Yeah.
So
Everyone has to.
education, whether it's the workplace, whether it's the home, whether it's the neighborhood.
It's politics as well.
It's everything and everyone. Everyone. And that's why I think it was never quite clear on why Jamie done what he done. And they tried to make sure that everyone knew that, look, everyone has a role to play. Everyone is collectively responsible and everybody can do something better. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's why they done it the way they did.
So can I add one last thing? Especially with Black families, they're very adverse to getting schools involved in the family, the home life. So, for example, if you're going through a divorce or something's going on in school, not to say that expose all your family matters, but the school should be there to help and support. So when the child comes into school and there's a behavior issue, like they're upset today, let them be able to tell the teacher. And there's counselors in the school that the children should go to. But I hear Black families like, don't tell the school because the social workers are going to come for you. Oh, you dropped on the floor today, don't go to school because the social workers are going to come for you. But then you've spoke the triangle of support. And then it's just between what goes on in the school is dissimilar from what goes on at home, where it should be it's the same child essentially. So if the child had a bad night or you had an argument with your husband or partner, it might affect the child the next morning. You don't have to go and tell the school, we blow for blow, bust balls. But you can say, oh, hi, we've got some things going on. So if you see them emotions change, do let me know. And at least now you know why they might act out.
Yeah, man, that's important.
Sorry, but do teachers have that much grace and towards Black children in particular and Black families?
If you treat them,
I don't know that they're doing that.
Working with you. If you treat them like they're working with you, not against you, yes. I've been in the schools.
Yeah, but
some teachers don't understand.
on the
but then you
onset,
find
they are working against.
They're not working against on the onset. It's because sometimes we're so defensive.
But there's a reason why we're defensive.
No, but you've assumed. So, for example, my daughter cut herself, and then someone was like, "Oh, you should go up to school and pad up the school." No, she didn't cut herself; she hurt herself. And pad up the school because why did they let her do this while they were attended? But that wasn't the school's intention. So if I go there with my arms up and beefing them, you think they're going to be friendly with me later or going to watch out for her emotional well-being later? They're going to have their guards up.
No.
So how do we go into
in that particular example? That's a minuscule. That's not. I'm more so speaking to secondary school. I don't know about primary school. I think secondary school.
Okay, I've worked in secondary schools.
I feel like there's a definite, like, in terms of the self-fulfilling prophecy that teachers inherently hold. So I'm not saying all. You are one, Jackie. Sorry, but
and Black teachers many Black teachers are like that. Many.
There's a way that they are viewed.
Yes, no, 100%. That's what I'm saying. I said they come from the sticks and they have their own theology of how they're going to the theorization of how they're going to fix the inner city kids. Yeah. However, work with the teachers. That's what I'm saying. In the first instance, think that they're there to help your child, and say we're not gonna resolve it until we are on the same page. We're on the same page, Miss Gallagher. We need to make sure we're on the same page and continue to work with the teacher, and they will turn around.
I guess it comes.
If not, then move your kid.
I guess it comes down to every situation is going to be different. We need to be aware of that these things exist. Yes, a Black family can be treated differently, right? That is very much a possibility, and it's very much a possibility that you can go graciously, like you're saying, Jackie, and work with the school, and for whatever reason, they have the capacity to do so, and they're willing to do so. But we also need to, I guess, be educated and empowered to be able to navigate the times where that isn't the case. And again, that takes collective force as well. Yeah. So this is what I mean. All of these things need to happen together, and we need to have access to all of these different things. You might not be the parent that needs to go to a community service to help you, like, because of the school's racism towards you. And I hope you aren't that family. But if you are that family, that resource needs to be there and accessible. Do you know what I mean? So it's swings and roundabouts. It's difficult.
Yeah, very difficult. Listen, I just want to say my school counsellor is the reason why I didn't go to prison. And I told my form tutor. So I got taken to Nige, to school, on a trick thing. And then when I came back, I spoke to my school, my form tutor, and then he got me counselling in the school. There was this counselling school. And I'm telling you, that is the reason why I didn't go to prison. Like, so sometimes you don't know. I think everything it's all different. So much different variables can affect how that comes out. So yeah, but I understand it.
Thank you very much. Any parting words, Ed?
No, I was just being conscious of the time for you there, Brent. What's it called? I will say, I feel like a big thing is just not just as a parent, but as a community, sort of making sure you sort of affirm to young men, about, or young boys, I should even say, about, feeling like they're enough. You know what I mean? That's something that's important. I feel like that getting reaffirmed by, by their parents, by their friends, by their whatever, maybe whoever, like feeling that they're enough, feeling that they're good enough, even if they're not, perfect students and, freaking Mr. 10 A stars or whatever it is now, whatever numbers is now, you know what I mean? Them ones, it's like, like you got to be able to make them feel that they're enough, so they're not chasing after something, you know what I mean? Even in situations where when you come from like split up homes or whatever, it's like making sure that both parents, again, when you're with your kids, you make them feel like, that you're you are good enough and you are, that you are, that you are a solid person, like, like making, like keeping them sort of balanced in that sense, you know what I mean? Like, because I think that's just the number one thing that all these kids get caught up in. They're looking for something. They're looking for that validation. They're looking to feel like somebody looks at them and goes, yo, you're somebody, innit? Like, that's what they want. So it's like making sure that they feel like that, making sure they feel like there's somebody before that, making sure they're able to see, have and get that critical thinking, like get them dealing with critical thinking from a young age as well. Like, because that's a big thing that I think, like I said, a lot of them don't have. Like they'll get caught up in the group think so quickly because they haven't developed the idea of critical thinking. So be able to have like proper conversations with them where you can actually like get them analysing behaviours and in that, like you said something about the stories, so you can sort of like even stuff like that where you can just like you're getting them to sort of really think about things and address things, even if it's not from their perspective in terms of like it happening to them, but just being able to sort of judge things even from an outward perspective, that how beneficial that is for them. From a young age, I think that's super important because otherwise it's so easy for you to get caught up in the group think and just be like, I just want to follow my bedroom and just be like, yo, cool, like, it's what we're all doing, this is what we're doing. You know what I mean? And so it's about that type of stuff for me.
Gigi?
I would leave on a note with each one teach one. We all have a social responsibility, and I don't think it's hard for everyone to teach everyone they come into contact with. A lesson, a gem, I think that's our responsibility. And I will say, you guys can check out my podcast. Journeys with Grace. It's an immersive podcast.
Come on.
It's amazing. And if you want to know why I got taken to Nigeria, that's where you'll find out.
I do want to know.
And it's available on all streaming platforms.
Dr. Ron?
I guess similar to what I said before, but parents are the first line of emotional defense, but they don't need to do it all. Like, lean on culture, lean on community, lean on spaces that will see your children and boys in particular and your sons as a whole and not just strong. Like, coming back to this idea of it takes a village to raise a child, that for me, that's more than just cultural wisdom. That's a call for action.
Come on
like
now.
we actually need to come together and organize as a collective, and that is what makes the village. We need to be disrupting systems. We need to be influencing policy. And it's so funny because in the chat they're calling me Dr. Umar. Cracking up. But I think like this, we have to be serious with this. Like, it can't be talk anymore.
It's not a joke.
Like, we have, and again, because a lot of my work is with black boys, like, I'm going to locate it with the black community, that there are so many of us in different spaces doing powerful things, but it's all in silos. We need to organize, man. Like, we really need to change the world, but almost become builders to create new paths for our kids.
And everyone has their collective, it's a collective responsibility. Everyone has their roles.
100%, you have your piece.
And it's going to be different at different times. Sometimes my job is to do the whying, like, okay, why is this happening? I theorize. And sometimes it's, no, we need to do this, and I'm doing action. and they all have their roles and they work together, and we can do that as well. We can all have our roles and work together.
Yeah.
So we need to take
facts.
collective responsibility for things. We need to look after each other. We need to look after our children, and we need to be interested and curious with them. And we need to realize it's not a joke thing. This is not a joke at all. Like, this is a serious thing that we need to think about and do things about, and it can start at home. It can start with your own education. And it's unfortunate that, you know, some of the resources to aid your education are now taken away because of political reasons. Cool. But there are stylos, there are people doing it. How can we tap into them? We platform them on things like this.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Have our own. Where's Iman? He would have loved this.
This chat. People need to learn, need to know what's going on in the world, move with the times.
Yeah, 100%.
Because a lot of people just don't
You
know
can't
what's
stagnate.
going on.
You can't stagnate and be stuck in your generation. You've got
know
to
what's happening
adapt.
outside.
Yeah,
Your kids are saying this. Why are they saying this? When my nephew was saying I wanted a little side bag, I was like, really? But my sister was like, okay, I'll get it for him. I said, that side bag, that is a uniform for nonsense. Come here. Do you know what I mean? So we need to be aware. We need to make it our duty, responsibility to know what's going on. And it doesn't have to be your mum and dad. When I was in, if I was going to school in the 90s, the uncle would be like, are you bunking school? I'm going to tell your mum.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I had to put up my own little
like
cousin. His mum's missing languages using about women. I said, don't you dare speak about it. Come, sit down, and we're having a conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? So
we all need to chip
it's
in,
everybody.
We all need to chip in.
Dr. Amani.
Yo.
Socials, and then Ron, and then Gigi. I know Gigi doesn't want to leave any socials at all.
Socials. So I'm on Instagram and TikTok mostly. So Dr.Amani Samah. So that's AMANI SAMAH.
Dr. Ron.
I'm trying to think what TikTok is. Like,
You're not
I jumped on TikTok, then jumped off it because I was tired of it. No, but I don't know if I think I'm on. So on Instagram, I'm the accessible psychologist. On X, Twitter, I'm N.Dodsro.
Is that all one accessible?
Yeah, the accessible psychologist. Yeah. On Insta, I think on TikTok I might be like Ron.Dodsro. DODZRO. But I mean, just Google me, man. Things will come up. My socials
That
will
is
come up.
true.
But that's the reality of it.
My friends
like,
do big things.
I'm the only Dr. Ron Dodsro about.
Plug your research now, please.
And yeah, so to be fair, like, I guess, The Life of a Top Boy, I kind of mentioned it before, but please, like, go on Google, download that, read it. I guess part of my work is how do I reframe the narratives that exist around black boys, black men generally, who experience community violence. And I went through a trauma-informed lens to do that. So really went into the world to understand that this is a population that, yes, they might perpetrate violence, but are also suffering with trauma. They're also suffering with PTSD. And because that narrative is not thought about, it then leads to the kind of the over-criminalization of black boys because, again, the adultification element is applied where we're not seeing the innocent, vulnerable side of them.
Amazing. Are you going to share show notes? Plug your podcast again, please.
Me?
Yes, please.
So wait, you can on Instagram it's JWG Story, and that's just Journeys of Grace. And I'm not on TikTok, but my website is jwgstory.com, and you can find out all you need to know there.
And actually, I'm going to do another shout out that I've if people are kind of caught up in community violence or people that know, or people that are, put them in touch with me. Like, this is my bag. So I've recently set up my company, PTSD, Psychologists the Streets Deserve, because I've acknowledged that clinical psychologists, where we often exist in an ivory tower. Like, not many people have access to us, who need access to us. And I guess this is an organization, with me and my colleague, where we're from ends. Like, how many psychologists do you know from ends that are doing this work? So if you feel like for yourself or for other young people, like, shout them my way.
Audiobook. Sorry. You know what's so funny? Because anytime I plug my research and it's 200 pages, people are like, no, sorry. I had to sit down. We had to sit down and write all these pages, so please read them. Yeah.
And Ed, socials?
I ain't a socials guy, you know. Find me in the Discord, that's where you find me.
That's just me. You see me. All right. Thank you very much, those who participated in the Discord panel. Izzy Bambino, Black Rob, I think I've beaten you. Hold up. Black Rob, Jackie, Christy, Gin and Gist. Who else is there? Welcome. Who else is there?
Isn't like miraculous, isn't it?
Yeah, Miraculous Miri. Who else?
Is it
Nat. Yes, chat with Nat. I'm gonna get you into the studio very soon. Don't you worry. Who else? I can't remember. Badu. And if I've missed anybody, I apologize. Thank you. We are gonna be here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And we will bring back Dr. Ron. And you're going to be seeing Gigi a lot very soon. Don't worry about that. And Dr. Mani is Dr. Mani. Anyway, bye.
Bye.
Till later.
Bye.
Bye.